DMA. What y'all really want? Arf, 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 arf. One more road to cross, one more risk to take. Rest in peace, DMX, baby. Earl Simmons is a given. He's a goat. Arf, arf, arf. Okay. Welcome, family, to another wonderful, infiltrating, edutainment edition of the Art of This Thing, Stop Provocateur. We all be news-free Dixie for the 21st century. I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told y'all. News-free Dixie. So everything looks good. It looks beautiful. Today's date is April 9th, 2021. I think everything good. I think y'all can hear me. Can you hear me? Let me know. Holla if you hear me. Holla if you can hear me. Hellraiser. Okay. There's a lot to talk about. Thank y'all for tuning in. We love you madly. News Free Dixie. Dr. King said that human salvation lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted. I am proudly creatively maladjusted. Never get used to the BS that they feed you. And you know, the people that betrayed you, they be known as your people. You know, the main folks they'll do you in are the folks you call friend or family. The folks that proclaim they love you are the main ones that lying to your ass from day one when you get here. The main folks, you can only betray somebody. A person can only betray you if you trust and love them. Your enemies cannot betray you. A stranger cannot betray you. Only friends and family. You know, people on your cell phone, phone plan, those type of people. Because love can quickly change. What is the opposite of love? It's not hate, because hate is a form of love. Hate is a form of love. Love is a form of hate. They are twins. But it's indifference. No feeling. No love. No hate. Just indifference. That's the opposite of love and hate. But, you know, loyalty has an expiration date, you know? And whatever choice we make, we're going to have to pay for it one way or the other. Either now or either later. You must pay. Arf, 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 arf. You know, DMX died at 50, right? Y'all always talking about being a dog. Get at me, dog. So in dog years, he was about 7 or 8 years old. In dog years. In human years, he was 50 years old. I refuse, after surviving 2020, to see what happened to DMX as a tragedy. It's not a tragedy, people. It's a triumph. DMX lived longer than anybody, probably himself, expected to live. You know, DMX lived a very interesting and reckless life, but he left a lot behind for future generations. To my understanding, he has, I think 15 kids. Hopefully he has a will. And if he had a will, it doesn't make a difference, because who really cares about black musicians or creatives having wills? No, Michael Jackson had several wills, right? Prince had to have a will or two, because why would he go through all that trouble to get back control of his music from Time Warner Brothers, whatever, Warren A. Brother? Why would he go through all that only to die on the anniversary of him getting his publishing back or masters back, right? To die in his elevator in his mansion, allegedly. To have a vault built for unreleased music. Why would he go through all the trouble to do that, and also to make sure that you could not play his music on YouTube and places like that while he was alive? Now his music is everywhere. It's like unreleased bootleg OG stuff, like Tupac stuff, right? So why would he go through all that trouble only to not have a will at the end? These folks play dirty, y'all. Y'all keep on thinking they're gonna play correct. I'm gonna tell y'all something. We're gonna get into the topic, but I'm gonna let you know. Y'all don't understand. I'm right across the street from where they killed MLK. The gun that killed MLK came from who? Guess who? Arf, arf, arf. Came from the feds, man. FBI, Judge Joe Brown proved that. You read Dr. William Pepper's book, The Plot to Kill King. chain of possession goes all the way back to the feds, the same feds that were embedded with the Klan, brutally beating and killing civil rights workers and activists during the 60s. You had feds in the car that shot up Viola Liuzzo, the white housewife from Detroit, while she was helping transport people from the Selma campaign. Even Schwerner Cheney Goodman has the FBI involvement in that as well. They had informants all throughout the white knights of the Ku Klux Klan, one of the most vicious claverns in the whole nation. You had the FBI there. First FBI black person was hired to do what? To neutralize Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who gave the Chicago police the blueprint to Fred Hampton's house, the FBI. You know, like I said, I'm going to say this again. We had on Sister Gloria Jackson, who was the sister of the late, great Mark Clark, defense captain of the Black Panther Party. She said from her research, and I heard from other sources, that there were at least 25 informants that compromised the largest Black Panther chapter in the country at that time, the Illinois Black Panther Party chapter, right? So you had at least 9 informants working for Roy Mitchell, William O'Neill's only sole handler at the FBI. You can't find any real information outside on maybe a couple obituaries. The Chicago Tribune had an obituary for Roy Mitchell. There is no photos that I could find, unless I probably go on the dark web, of this Roy Mitchell character. But yeah, we know about William O'Neill, but yet you had maybe almost 30-something people that were informants that people say were in the Illinois Black Panther Party. Now Bobby Rush, Fred Hampton's right-hand man, now he's doing his job. He wanted to call on the government to release unredacted files, release all the full files pertaining to the surveillance and the infiltration of the Black Panther Party. I saw this in the headline. I don't know how true it is. You know, it's interesting. I remember when Minister Farrakhan called for the government to release all the information on the assassination of Malcolm X, but people to this day still believe that the Farrakhan allegedly has something to do with Malcolm. And you know what's funny? Like I tell about Farrakhan, like this recent psyop in D.C. with Noah Green. First they were saying, you know, he was a member of the Nation of Islam. Then they're saying he was a follower of Farrakhan. But they said, see, they changed the story. So, I mean, first he's a follower of Farrakhan. Then they tried to imply that he was part of the Nation of Islam. He was not fruit of Islam. He was studying with the Nation. He donated money to the Nation. But how did they know where he brought that $300 knife from, allegedly? You know, they know everything because everything's under surveillance. Big Brother is watching and listening to all, you know, even the thought police. They could probably monitor what we actually thinking right now. We don't even know it. It's so much stuff they're doing to undermine people's civil and human liberties in this country alone. I ain't talking about the crimes committed around the world, right? So, I mean, we still don't know. Now, we know the victims of Noah Green, the DC Capitol, DC cop that got killed, whatever. They released his name and face and all that. But we still don't know who shot Ashley Babbitt on January the 6th. Who is the person? What does this person look like? What is his person name? Was it security? Was it police? We still don't know who shot Ashley Babbitt on January 6th. We still don't know what happened to Marion Carey on Obama's wedding anniversary. We still don't know a lot of things because we don't have institutions and people that work on the interest in the best interest and self-interest of the people to get to the bottom of these so-called unsolved mysteries. Now, when people try to do that, who are so-called representatives of the people like the Honorable Dr. Cynthia McKinney, whose career was destroyed by standing up for people. She said it should be an independent investigation into what happened 20 years ago. Do you remember that time in September? You know what I'm talking about. I ain't trying to get out. They trying to censor people on here. So y'all know what I'm talking about. It cost her job. Then they created an incident with her involving the Capitol Hill police. They act like they didn't know who Cynthia was. They accosted her. They assaulted her. Her hairstyle made her different. And she'd been in Congress for several terms at that point. And finally they got rid of her. They redrawn her district, right? They did some redistricting down in Georgia that cost her seat. And I remember when she was calling out about the atrocities committed after Hurricane FEMA hit New Orleans. about, black folks going missing, being killed. See, we didn't have social media back then. Maybe we had, I don't think we had MySpace around in 2005. And people was talking about Katrina fatigue, but we was dependent on people like that white boy with the crooked nose white dude to be, I'm Brian Williams. Brian Williams, come to find out he been lying all his career. His daughter's an actress, so I guess she learned it from daddy. She learned it from home, how to lie well and looking into the camera. Look into my eyes. Y'all remember when Katrina, they were saying that black folks became cannibals less than 24 hours after the levees broke. They were saying that black folks became cannibals. We were just eating Popeye's chicken less than 24 hours ago. How did people become cannibals in less than 24? They had chicken, they had running water, indoor toilets. You had civilization. See, everything now in hindsight, Katrina, be 16 years this year, sometimes in August, Black August. And look at New Orleans now versus New Orleans pre-Katrina. I was blessed to be able to went to New Orleans pre-Katrina, or Hurricane FEMA. And, very rich, vibrant culture. But a lot of folks can't come back home. There's a lot of folks still missing from New Orleans around that era. They send folks all the way up to Utah and stuff who never been outside the Ninth Ward, let alone New Orleans. So they were doing things to make sure that folks didn't come back. And so what I did back in April of 2006, I went with a church from Memphis down to New Orleans to protest the early voting they were trying to have back in April 2006 because so many of the residents were not home yet. So I went down there with this church group. Al Sharpton and his people organized it. We walked across the bridge to Gretna, Paris. It was amazing. John Legend played on the bridge. This is when I really was digging John Legend. We're just ordinary people. Like the new age Lionel Richie and stuff. But Mayor Ray Nagin was there, doing this thing. That's when I had the epiphany, April 2006, to start what is now known as We All Be, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. I started back in April, inspired by my sojourn to New Orleans to protest the early voting after Hurricane FEMA. And so here we are 15 years later, which is crazy. All the things that we're able to do and whatnot and to be able to achieve. It's a blessing. It's a force of one, really. But I want to thank all the supporters and contributors and everybody who send me any leads on stories, who came on this platform to talk about stories that would normally not get covered in mainstream media. I appreciate you so much. People, for example, now is all this hype and interest into Daniel Green, right? Y'all remember Daniel Green, one of the guys who was sent to prison for allegedly killing Michael Jordan's dad. Larry Demery is supposed to get out. The so-called Native American, so-called partner in crime is supposed to get out sometime soon. But they try to highlight that the black man, our brother Daniel Green, actually killed Michael Jordan's dad. Now, what's interesting about that case, somebody wrote to me earlier tonight about the case, want me to sign a petition to help him get out of prison. And I told the brother, look, Daniel Green contacted me back in 2016. This is before Vlad TV and all that. Y'all see, I have broke a lot of stories. There's a lot of things I have done through We All Be that we don't get credit for. Not just getting Dick Gregory back in front of the millennial generation, all that. Not just getting y'all Judge Joe Brown, a different perspective on him. Other things, but we have broke stories. Like we were one of the first media outlets stateside to interview the key participants in the Agenda 6 movement. I have helped broke stories in terms of suspected lynching of Frederick Jermaine Carter back in December 2010. We was the only organization in the country that did an extensive investigative journalism report, including interviewing the sheriff, the coroner, the medical state examiner, and other people going to the crime scene. All this is in our archives. I did it with no budget. I did it because I had a love for my people. I wanted to serve the people with my best abilities through my talents and through my intelligence. I've been doing it for a long time. So it's the season to talk about these campaigns. But getting back to Daniel Green, he contacted me after the ending of the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James overcoming that huge deficit in the finals. Destroying was that destroying the perfect season or the campaign season of Golden State Warriors, but they were going for like the most wins in history at that point. Was that the season when they collapsed in the finals with LeBron coming back, where they were down 3-0 or something like that, or 3-1 or something like that? But anyway, I started getting these like weird phone calls from North Carolina, some type of North Carolina correctional facility. I didn't know anybody arrested or locked up in North Carolina. So after a couple of tries, I answered the phone. I accepted the call, found out it was a brother named Daniel Green. He told me who he was. There was a CO that showed him a video of Baba Dick Gregory talking on my show about that case and how he never sat right with him. You know, Baba Dick Gregory back in the 90s was trying to get in touch with Daniel Green's lawyers to try to help him get the brother out of his situation because he knew it wasn't adding up. And so finally, you know, I answered the phone, Daniel Green. Brother was very articulate. You could say he was highly intelligent. I said, this brother don't even sound like he's supposed to be in jail. Like he's been in jail for the last 20-something years. You know what I'm saying? But I connected him with Baba Dick Gregory that summer because I was on the outs with Baba. We had a blowout back in, I believe, back in May. And so I went out of the country in Mexico in Cozumel for a wedding. And I didn't start. And this was a way for me to get back in the good graces of Baba Dick Gregory, connecting this man with Baba. And Baba was grateful for the connection because he wanted to share with the man his doubts about how he was done. Because that Michael Jordan, like even The Last Dance did not really address that. That was strange. I don't know. Y'all understand how strange that was for them to cremate Michael Jordan's daddy. Like they didn't know who he was. Like you found his car. His son brought that car, newly brought that car for him from Chicago. He had on his, I think he had one of Michael Jordan's championship rings on his person. You know, they could have looked at his dental records. A lot of things they could have done, but yet they decided to cremate his body. So no body, no crime, right? You can't tell what really happened to Michael Jordan, daddy. Let's go back what they say. If you trust the authorities, and he's a black man in the Deep South, you know, Michael Jordan grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina. No, Michael Jordan was born in Brooklyn, but he was raised back in his daddy's home state of North Carolina in Wilmington. And we talk about the Wilmington Race Massacre 1898, how they just destroyed Wilmington's black business and middle class, where they did so bad after George White left Congress. The black representative George White, after he left Congress, I think back in 1901, the state of North Carolina did not have any black representative from that state to represent them in the U.S. Congress until the early 90s. Wilmington became a sundown town. While Michael Jordan was there growing up, it became a sundown town. You know, Michael Jordan talked about in a couple of interviews when Roots, the Roots TV show based on the so-called Alex Haley book that he stole from the white man, Dr. Harold Corlander, called The African. Michael Jordan talking about how he got into fights with white students at his school after watching Roots. Because Roots was very, you know, polarizing for a lot of people. You got to think about it. You didn't have no internet back then. You just had the three major networks. So tens of millions of people saw Roots. So that's a very powerful form of propaganda. So Michael Jordan talking about how he was infuriated and started, you know, getting into fights with white students at his school. That's an interview he said that. I saw this in an interview he did. But just understand the psyche of a Michael Jordan, where when Harvey Gantt, the first black mayor of Charlotte, was running for a senator against Jesse Helms Jr. And I tell you, Jesse Helms Sr. was a fire and police chief down in Monroe, North Carolina, where the great Robert F. Williams is from. We talked about Robert F. Williams on this show many times. He was a comrade and close friend of my cousin, another freedom fighter, Julia Mayfield. We'll talk more about him in the coming weeks. So much to talk about. But Michael Jordan said his famous or infamous reply was that, hey, Republicans buy shoes too, right? So he did not endorse Harvey Gantt. And Jesse Helms ended up winning again. And nothing about Jesse Helms, he was a media executive. He was a TV executive at one point, I believe. So he understood the power of controlling your narrative, of propaganda, and controlling your narrative. So, yeah. So I had talked to Daniel Green a couple times from prison. I recorded it and I uploaded it to We All Be TV. And people say, well, you know, I can't help the sound quality. You know, Everything's trial and error. I can understand what the brother's saying. And when we all be institute up and running, and I get some grant dollars in, I can always upgrade a lot of my audio over the years. But I'm just, you gotta understand, I'm grassroots activism. I didn't go to a school to be trained like this. I got trained through life, through trials and errors and the ebbs and flows of life. But I'm passionate because I want to share what I know with people as much as I can in many different ways possible. So, hey, I talked to the brother a couple times, and the brother, he read Dr. Amos Wilson's Blueprint to Black Power. That was one of his favorite books. So this is what this man's mind was at. Even though he was in prison for those years, so many years, his mind was free to feed on information. So that's very important to note. Thank you, brother Ronaldo. We appreciate it. We love you madly. Rest in peace, Doc, man. X. Get at me, dog. Ruff, ruff, ruff. One more road to cross. One more rest to take. I love that, man. But before we get into DMX, let me play one of the interviews I did with brother Daniel Green, the guy who allegedly killed Michael Jordan's father. They didn't even talk about that in Last Dance. Michael Jordan, I like that was okay for them to cremate his dad's body. And he had the dinner records. I mean, you could trace the car on who brought the car. They could have easily did a lot of things. But they claimed that the reason why they cremate, for one of the claims I heard was that, hey, we didn't have enough room in the morgue and the freezer, all that. But look, the sheriff of that town, even the press, like GQ magazine, you can look all this up. A lot of the media people back then questioned the so-called official narrative of what happened to Michael Jordan's dad. And they questioned if Daniel Green, especially, was he really the one that killed Michael Jordan dead? It could have been like young guys, joyriding. I mean, people do that, teenagers, stupid things you do in youth, right? But people got to understand that part of the country is a major drug trafficking ring. I mean, like you go on I-95, you got that from the East Coast, you going all the way up the coast, all the way down to Miami, right? So that's a drug trafficking corridor. And that town, that sheriff in particular, was known for being a guy that was very friendly to drug trafficking. Like his son, I believe, allegedly ran his drug cartel from a hotel in town, a motel or hotel, right? Maybe Michael Jordan's father was killed at the hotel, drug deal went bad or whatever, went sideways, and he was killed there. Because you can't do a toxicology report if they cremated his body. You don't know how he died or what was in his system when he died. So this stuff is deep. But allegedly, the sheriff had a reputation for being very corrupt. And now the sheriff been dead for a while, but now there's interest back in this story. So it wouldn't surprise me, because you got to remember, I also brought y'all the Curtis Flowers story. This brother was on death row in Mississippi for 20-something years for something he didn't do. Tried 6 times on stuff on the same evidence. Like he was the real Green Mile. Now he's out. Congratulations to Curtis Flowers. He just became happily married. He's married now, and he kept the faith. But he won the few outlets, because now people talking about that podcast on white girls. But I best believe they watched some and listened to some of my episodes that I interviewed Jerry Mitchell, the investigative journalist down in Jackson, Clarion Ledger. I interviewed Curtis Flowers' mom, his investigator, a couple people, family friends, his lawyer after the appeal presentation. I went down there to cover the appeal process back in July of 2014 down in Jackson. So best believe, man, we've been doing it. We've been breaking stories, let y'all know about this hidden history, the other side of the game. So I'm very proud of our work that we have been doing. And the best is yet to come. But let me play. We're going to talk about DMX, but I want to play this video of the interview, one of the interviews I did with Daniel Green. He called me from prison, and then we'll move on. But I heard there's a documentary. I guess a 7-part documentary series about Daniel Green and that case by Michael Jordan's father. And we'll be doing a show about that in the future. But I just want to play. Because y'all talking about Vlad TV. I was doing a lot of stuff that y'all said, well, you got different Vlad. No, I've been cutting up interviews. I have interviewed a lot of different people on interesting stories. And like I said, self-taught, trial and error. And I know the best is yet to come. And y'all remind me that I'm self-taught. I'm self-taught on everything. And y'all remind me. But anyway, let me play this and then we'll come back. We all be news. News free Dixie for the 21st century. I thought I told you that we won't stop.
This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News free Dixie for the 21st century.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me about the court part, but also I want to ask you about his name is Gregory, your co-defendant.
Right.
Were y'all real close before all this happened? I mean, how did you meet him?
Okay, well, when I was in third grade, man, we went to school together at a place called Union Elementary, which is in Roland, North Carolina, but it's actually close to Pembroke. And we being Black students integrated that school. Like we were the first Black students in that school, and we were not wanted at that school because like that was a predominantly Indian school at the time. And so, you know, like in a lot of areas where they play people against each other, that was kind of like the racial dynamic then. And unfortunately, to some extent, it still is. So we were, I can't remember exactly what it was, but we were fighting on the playground about something. And my teacher, her name was Miss Lynette, which is like one of the best teachers I've ever had. That beautiful, beautiful, loving lady. Like she was the one that kind of brought it out of me that made me, made me want to learn. She kind of snatched us both up, and back then they were, I don't know if they still do it now, but back then they were kind of like battle you. But she wasn't like no abusive person, but kind of battle us a little bit and said, listen, since y'all want to fight, y'all gonna have to work together. Y'all gonna have to learn how to work together. So we ended up like doing. It was a project that Pizza Hut used to have. Like if you read a certain amount of books, they would give you like this certificate, and you can take this to Pizza Hut and redeem it for a pizza.
Right.
So he and I were the same team, and we were just both like with the Bible books. And I actually I got like a lot of certificates and never redeemed any of them. Now I think about it, I never got one damn pizza. How to deal, but that's how he and I became friends. We had a science project together. His mom brought us to my grandmother's house, my great grandmother's house, and that's how we became cool. And we were like really tight for like a couple of years. Then I moved away. And when I ended up moving back, and by the time I saw him again, it was really like around middle school. I came back down from Philadelphia. Like we would go back and forth between Robeson County and Philadelphia. So when I came back down middle school, we were still tight, but not as tight. As children, you're not affected by the whole racial thing, the racism thing. Kids just play, you know what I'm saying? And we were a little distant, but we ended up becoming kind of tight again. Then I moved away again. And when I moved back, or actually the next time I actually saw him was in 1993, which is just before all of this happened. And so he was like the only person that actually, besides some of my family and a couple of females, he was the only one that wrote me when I was locked up. I was locked up for 2.5 years for assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill. The charge was vacated and it was overturned in 1995. And it was found to be self-defense, and also as a result, conviction was a result of ineffective assistance of counsel. When I got out, like I said, he was one of the few people I was dealing with. And that was our link, that was our bond. I had just came back into the area, had never experienced that area as a young adult or even as a teenager. So I'm not really familiar with the area at all. But he was the one that kind of, showed me around and introduced me to different things. And that's how, he and I met.
And so is he like a Lumbee Indian or Native American?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's Lumbee Indian. He's Lumbee Indian. Lumbee is a tribe. They don't have federal recognition, but hopefully, we're hoping that they will get it soon. It's definitely a tribe. They definitely have a distinct culture. But what happened was, I guess back in the day, it's a lot of Lumbees that have like a lot of mixed blood. There's a lot of white blood, a lot of black blood. Some people say that they actually kind of came over here from Asia, maybe through Egypt, I think that I've seen proof of that. But from my understanding, that they're one of the tribes that migrated down here from up north.
Okay.
And just kind of, just kind of stayed down here. So they're definitely extinct people. Well, shout out to Lumpy, that's my people. You know what I'm saying? And and they definitely deserve federal recognition.
So when was the last time you spoke to Demery or had contact with him through letters or anything?
Man, I haven't. I have not since our arrest. When I was in county jail, both of us in county jail, I would see him. Was definitely, just blown away when I found out. When my attorney, that was one of our issues. My attorney told me, was like, yo, man, this guy saying that you did it, that you was involved, and I was like, I couldn't even believe that. I couldn't believe it. Eventually I found out that was true. But I also found out later, years later, actually like the last 6, 7 years, that the reason why he did that is because basically it's called prisoner's dilemma. That's like a game theory thing, where what they do is you take two people, you put them in two separate rooms, right? And you try to get one to point the finger at the other. And you basically, what it boils down to is that, say for instance, if you both of you point the finger at each other, you may get 40 years, for example. If neither of you point the finger, you get nothing. You get no time at all. If one of you point the finger, you may get 5 years. So according to game theory, which is like a mathematical theory, like they say it's best when you guilty not to point the finger, you point the finger at me, thinking that I had pointed the finger at him first. That's what the police told him. Like they worked on him. They recorded most of his interrogations. A lot of it was not recorded. And then also, I'm of the belief I've been told that there was threats made to his family. He had a daughter that was about to be born. In the whole situation that got us involved in this was, like I said, he was involved with some things with some people as far as, the whole drug thing.
I'm going to change our city forever.
But did he actually kill you? He actually killed Michael Jordan's daddy then? Do you think he actually did it?
I think he actually did it.
Yeah.
He's definitely told. And I'm not going to say he didn't know. I'm not going to say he didn't tell me he killed Michael Jordan's daddy, but he told me that he killed this man and stuff. That was initially what he told me. The story evolved over the next couple of weeks in minor ways, but it evolved enough for me to kind of not trust what he said. But I was already involved in the situation at that point.
So did you help move his body, James Jordan? Did you move his body at all or touch his body?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah, we did.
And you put him in a swamp?
When I was watching, excuse me.
Y'all dumped his body in a swamp, or did you move it somewhere else?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was a place that was about. And this is something I've since learned, of course, back then I had no idea. He drove the car to us where the spot we went to. I think it was maybe like a creek in an area that was like about a half a mile from where he worked at. And him and the person, the very first person that was called for the car, which is the sheriff's son, worked at this place together. So this is about 25, maybe 30 miles, maybe a little bit more from where I first saw Mr. Jordan's body.
Did you realize who he was or his connection to somebody's family?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely not. I definitely had no idea. I never had any idea. There was a recent article in the Charlotte Observer. They were saying that one thing that they side was disputing was that we moved from license plates. I never saw a paid attention to any license plate. Like I said, I've never gotten to anybody's car looking at the license plate. Had no idea who it was. I just thought it was Chicago Bulls air freshener, other Chicago Bulls paraphernalia. I always thought it was a Bulls fan.
Right.
I called him all to a Bulls fan, and because of what he was telling me, I didn't even really connect the car with the body. Because a lot of times he would make trips and they would either supply a car for him to transport his drugs, and they would either supply the car, maybe be like a rental car, it could be like a stolen car, it could be a car that could be rented out for practice. You know, how that was back in the 90s. So, like I said, I just didn't even know that this, based on what he told me initially when I first got the car, I had no idea that this car was like actually belonged to this person. I thought this person was somebody that was dropping off the car, and that and then the process of that and the, you know, exchanging drugs, and he killed him.
So I actually did like man, that's interesting. What about, like, I heard that you had video, you was on video wearing his jewelry and stuff like that. Is that true? You had a video out there?
Well, okay. What I had on was, it was an all-star ring, silver championship ring, and this ring is made out of material. It kind of looked like, you know, just like a silver ring or a stainless steel ring. I was in that video for like we was in it for about a few days, and I ended up finding this piece of jewelry in the glove compartment. That's like a little, well, not the glove compartment, but the, what is it called, in between the console.
Okay.
And it was like a little, kind of like a hidden compartment, and like if you push like a little, you wouldn't know it was there.
Right.
But you just happen to kind of come across it. And so when I pushed down, it's like this little compartment opened up, and it was a watch, and it was a ring, and then one watch, it was one ring. This was 3 days after he was, you know, after Mr. Jordan was probably killed. And so when I found that, you know, 18 years old, yeah, I put it on the board. You know, me and a lot of kids that was around, so it wasn't just me and him that was in the car; it was others as well. Okay. All right. I made a video, but when as far as, you know, people were trying to say that I made a video bragging about killing somebody, that was a total lie. I was rapping a song by Tupac. Actually, Tupac and I think Digital Underground, I Get Around. Another one by Tupac and MC Breeze. You know, Gotta Get Yours, Gotta Get Mine, yeah, right. Get Yours, and then freestyling off of, like, and doing like I was even rapping back then. So I was doing like it was a response to a Cypress Hill song, saying like, you know, I could just kill a man. Back then, you know, like that was doing, like, I was still coming out of prison. So when I got locked up, it was like conscious rap. Like I got locked up in 1991. So we were on the conscious, you know, being conscious thing. In 93, things had changed, but my rap style was pretty much still conscious. So I was basically saying, you know, I can't understand how you can kill a man, you know, but I can comprehend how you can pull a trigger and make a finger again. And, you know what I'm saying? That was the song I was doing. And they took that and extrapolated somehow into saying that I was bragging about killing a man. That's definitely not true. That, you know what I'm saying, it didn't have anything to do with the crime or anything at all. I was just rapping. I was rapping. It was a female that was there, and I was just rapping, you know, just having fun.
Okay. What about during the trial? Was anybody from James Jordan or Michael Jordan family present during your trial that you know of?
No, not that I know. I never saw anybody there.
Okay. All right. So what would you like to say before we close? Like, you got anything else you like to add, or?
No, I mean, you know, like I said, man, I just appreciate the opportunity to at least speak about it. You know, long ago, what people don't know, man, it's like right after I got locked up, what I just told you, I wrote a letter to a family friend of the Jordans, and explained the same thing to them. You know, because I felt like it was important to take credit, you know, take responsibility for what I did, and to also, you know, defend myself for what I didn't do. And I just think that, you know, that in order for, you know, you bring about some type of change, you got to be honest about what type of mistakes you made and why. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go into the why at some time.
Well, we definitely will, man. I want to thank you, Brother Daniel, for your help and for you being honest about the situation and sharing your story.
I appreciate it.
That was Brother Daniel Green. That was back in 2016. That was the summer of 2016. I did another interview with him. I don't know, probably, I want to say, I don't know if that was the first one or that was the second one, but just want to play that. That was 2016. He contacted me based on the stuff that I did with Dick Gregory, and the CEO told him, hey, you know, Dick Gregory think you know something fishy about what went on with you. He said he tried to contact you back in the day, but nobody will allow him to get in touch with you. So Daniel people, his own legal team, did not allow Baba Dick Gregory to connect with this brother. And had he probably connected with Baba back then, who knows, he may not be in jail right now or in prison right now. So I'm hoping, like what Baba Dick will always tell me and other people, pray for the truth to come out at noon. So, Baba Dick Gregory's spirit strong. But today, April the 9th, we're going to talk about DMX. We're going to talk about my grandfather. He got killed on this day 51 years ago. Herbert Hurd Sr. up in Saginaw. He was actually crushed to death by a machine. A machine fell on him and crushed him to death at the job. My grandfather was a very activist-minded person. He was a labor organizer and a community organizer. When he died, they had his obit in the local newspaper, leader of concerned blacks die. So he was just 44 years young. He was a family man, married to my grandmother who died in 2016 after she turned 88 years young. Grandma Lita, they were married for 20 years. He died at 44. But he actually had a premonition about his death, and we're going to talk about that in this show. He actually knew that he was going to die. And so I know there was no accident. If he already knew he was going to die, because what was strange, his eldest child, my Aunt Stephanie, who died last year, she became a righteous ancestor last year, she called the house and she was hysterical. My grandma answered the phone, said, "What's wrong, baby? Why y'all ain't tell me that daddy died?" It was a lady that called me. She was away in college. It was a lady that called her and said, "Your daddy's dead." And my grandfather was eating dinner at the table with the family. And when he heard that, he said, "Oh, not yet. It's not time, not yet." Like, my uncle Herb, we're going to show a video of him talking about his father at his grave, at my grandfather's grave. When I went to my grandmother's funeral, I spent some time. That was my first time visiting my grandfather's grave in Saginaw, Michigan. But I just want to talk about, he died on April 9th. Prince Philip died today, April 9th. DMX died April 9th. And April 9th, it's a powerful day. This is a powerful month for white supremacy. This is like a blood sacrifice month for white supremacy. Adolf Hitler's birthday is April 20th. He's a Taurus on Aries cuffs. My birthday is April 23rd, but it makes sense that Hitler will be born a Taurus on Aries cuffs. So if you know anything about that type of zodiac stuff, it makes sense. Like, and Queen Elizabeth, the second birthday is April 21st. She'll be 95 years young. So her husband was a Gemini. He was born June the 10th, 1921. He would have been 100 years young had he survived, whatever he survived. But I remember reading somewhere he wanted to come back as a virus, a killer virus. So this guy had an interesting take on humanity. And my thing is, they call him Prince Philip, and he a grown man. Was his wife Queen of England? Why is he Prince Philip? It's not like he was wearing short pants all his life. Y'all know them old school folks know I'm talking about short pants. He was Baby Boy, Arrested Development, Royal Pain, Foolishness. What the hell, man? You Baby Boy? Your wife is the Queen of England. You just a prince? Don't sound right, y'all. I thought that was a black man thing. We play PlayStation all day. Smoke all day, work all night. Ruff, ruff, ruff. But anyway, also, today is the birthday. I want to take my horse down the Hershey Road. Old Town Road. Ride till I can't go more. Wrangler on my booty, singing to the fruity. Ain't nobody tell me nothing. Talking Little Nas X, Little Nasty X. His birthday today. Satan's boy. And really, y'all tripping off that. That's always been a part of the culture. Y'all do realize that Lucifer was the master musician in heaven. Y'all know that song about Umbrella that Rihanna sang? Who was she talking about? The Umbrella Man. Who was the Umbrella Man? Ella, Who's the Rain Man? Lucifer was the master musician. So it makes sense that a lot of these musicians die the way they do. They make a deal. And what I'm going to say is, where my niggas? You making deals. See, we all made a deal. When T-Mac, I ain't never forget that interview he did on ESPN last year when Kobe died, after Kobe died. And they were real close. They grew up together. played high school basketball, AAU, all that stuff they do. You know how they come up in the same type of stuff together. And T-Mac was saying that Kobe told him, look, I want to die young. I want to be greater than Jordan. So Kobe did die young. And to a lot of people, especially like young basketball players in the league, I'm talking about the players that are leading the league right now, like the Kyrie Irvings, those type of players, Kobe was their Michael Jordan. To them, Kobe was better than Jordan. And Kobe was one of the greatest skilled basketball players of all time. Had a very high basketball IQ, was very skilled. So in a lot of these players' eyes, he was Michael Jordan for them. Just like how Michael Jordan was, for Kobe. Kobe was for this generation of players now. They're Michael Jordan, their idol. So, and you look at some of Kobe's stuff, he was into the occult, the dark arts. He knew about that stuff. You look at some of his children's stuff, his children videos and all that stuff, interesting concepts. He embraced his dark side, and Kobe was a Virgo. So Virgos are fascinating people like Michael Jackson, Charlie Parker, Dave Chappelle, Beyonce, Nas, Amy Winehouse. So many Virgos. They are phenomenal people. So he had that work ethic, but he made that deal. Like T-Mac said, he made a deal. It's like Robert Johnson at the Crossroads. Y'all know about Robert Johnson. Me and the devil. I gotta keep moving. Hellhounds on my trail. Hellhound on my trail. I actually went down to Clarksdale where they say he made a deal at the Crossroads. I went down there back in 2018. It don't look like it was back in the day. It was all built up. You got a Church's Chicken, a barbecue restaurant, and a grocery store and all this stuff at this intersection where they said it was the Crossroads where Robert Johnson allegedly made a deal with the devil. So I went down there, waited around midnight, and I wasn't spooked out. I was just curious, like what's going to happen at midnight. Midnight came. The only thing that happened was this big old black dog started walking out of nowhere. This black dog came out of nowhere. It didn't bother me. He just walked on his way across the crossroads and it went his way. I said, oh, this is interesting. Was that the devil? Was that the devil? Was that the devil? Was that the devil? So that is nothing new. That comes from Africa. The trickster god and all that stuff. This stuff is interesting playing with the spirit world, right? But Robert Johnson learned how to play practicing his guitar in the cemetery. This guy named Ike Zimmerman, this itinerant blues musician who was a widower, he was teaching Robert Johnson how to play blues guitar in the cemetery at night. I guess they can't disturb nobody because the dead ain't gonna be disturbed by you playing, no matter how bad or good you play. So that's interesting, right? Then you got P.D. Wheatstraw. Like I talked about it on one of the shows. I think it was the show I did last. The devil's son-in-law, the high sheriff of hell, P.D. Wheatstraw. Y'all think about P.D. Wheatstraw, y'all think about Dolomite. But he got that from the blues musician named P.D. Wheatstraw, who got killed on his birthday doing a beer run. They hit a train on a beer run in East St. Louis on his birthday. He was just 39 years young, but he was like one of the most popular, if not the most popular, male blues singer of his era. And Robert Johnson sounds just like him. Robert Johnson, he made a deal with the devil. P.D. Wheatstraw said he was the devil's son-in-law, the high sheriff of hell. So when you make these deals, it never ends too cute for you in the end anyway. But you got other music. I think Tommy Johnson, I think they say he made a deal with the devil. This is nothing new. But you look at DMX. DMX to me is like what Bernie Mac is to comedy and what Howlin' Wolf is to the blues. These guys are so damn original that nobody can ever copy how they did it. You understand? Like there'll never be another DMX. His spirituality, his passion, his vulnerability, his rawness, just his whole thing, his voice, nobody would ever come next to that. It's unique in his own way. And he had the same thing that they said Bernie Mac had or Howlin' Wolf. Like Bernie Mac, they said, Bernie Mac's funny, but we can't understand what the hell he's saying. White executives, Bernie's funny, but is he can white folks understand his funny? This is your Uncle Bernie Mac. I don't give a fuck. Kick it. I ain't scared of you, motherfucker. I can understand Bernie Mac. Southside Bernie. I can understand Bernie. Chicago Bernie. West Side, South Side, whatever. Chicago. Very successful because he was just him. He was just being him. That's why Bernie Mac made it. He was just being himself. Same thing with DMX. He was just being himself, and people slept on him like they slept on Bernie Mac for years. Like, you know, it took the kings of comedy for Bernie Mac to start getting some traction. Like, you know, Bernie was around for a long time. I remember him being that bum and above the rim. He did, all the stuff. Friday. Bernie was just around, but Bernie started hitting his stride really until after the Kings of Comedy film came out. What, about 21 years ago? I can't believe it's been like 20 something years ago, and he just killed it. Kick it! I ain't scared of you, motherfucker. Bernie Mac. All that stuff you was doing, that shit hilarious. But DMX, they would sleep on DMX. Like Puffy was in that the shiny suit era with Mace, all them shiny suit. They got the shiny suits and all that bullshit. Puffy couldn't see the potential of a DMX. And you know what's sad? People told me that DMX died in debt. He won't be in debt no more because he's dead. He's worth more dead than alive. Because they don't have to worry about paying him or feeding him, keeping him off of drugs, whatever. So he's worth more dead than alive, and his estate, he should be pouring in millions of dollars soon. But DMX not only made the Rough Riders, he saved Def Jam. DMX saved Def Jam. People, black people, man, we're powerful. We can save everybody, everything, or anything but ourselves. DMX saved Def Jam. He saved them, and he made the Rough Riders. I mean, DMX had one of the greatest five-year runs in music industry history. In terms of his artistry and the sales, he's able to release 2 albums in 1 year, go number 1, right? And sell a lot. People would think, that's overexposure, but people could get enough of DMX. Darkman X. X gonna give it to you. Arf, arf. Who we be? DMX was the truth, man, because he spoke his truth, man. He didn't try to fit into this industry cupcake thing they want him to do. That's why he was successful. You got to think about it. This is after Tupac and Biggie. And people thought that hip hop was on his deathbed after that. Because I remember how, it was back then. People thought that hip hop couldn't make it. Man, hip hop, this is before the Eminem stuff, the phenomenon known as Eminem. Then you had Lauryn Hill, the Miseducation. Lauryn Hill came out with 98. Oh my God. But DMX just, man, he put the game on his back and ran with it. And he was like, came through like, Jim Brown or somebody. Just ran with it. Carried a whole damn genre on his back. Jay-Z. I like Jay-Z. He's one of my favorite MCs. I got him in number 2. But I got DMX at number 9 with Big Daddy Kane. But DMX, the only thing that I would say was tragic that we didn't get all we could out of DMX, I guess, in a way. I mean, DMX should never be broke, should have never been broke or worry about money, should never be destitute because his voice, nobody sounds like that. I mean, the way he talked, you remember he did that, that Chris Rock movie, he made a cameo in that Chris Rock movie, with the Top 5 or something like that, with Chris Rock and Rosario Dawson. And he was in the jail singing. Was he singing in jail? But even when he was on the Breakfast Club, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, he should have been doing a whole bunch of voiceover work, cartoons, everything, selling stuff. But DMX, man, he's that rose that grew from concrete. He came from a very dysfunctional background. So that's why it's not a tragedy to me, because in spite of how he started in life, he made a wonderful contribution to humanity, to the culture. I mean, his spirit was amazing. I never met Darkman X. I know people that have met him. Seemed like he was a people's person. But like I said, he beat the odds. His life, that's like him even existing, let alone existing for 50 years. It's a miracle that we had anything from this brother. Because there's a lot of people that come through here, this thing called life, don't leave nothing behind but misery and hurt and pain. This guy was healing people while he was hurting himself. He was able to heal people while he hurt. It's kind of like you a master barber. You cut everybody else's hair real well, but your hair don't get cut. You don't trim your beard. You don't cut your hair. You just look a mess. But everybody else's hair, you do up. You give them the touch. You give them the look. You know, Anthony Hamilton of all people was a barber coming up. I'm not saying that he's sloppy, you know, but you know, Anthony Hamilton, like, you know, he got that blue collar working thing going on. I love Anthony Hamilton, one of my favorite singers, but he was a barber. But you know, it's like that a lot of times. A lot of so-called caregivers, you taking care of everybody else, but you neglect yourself in the process. You lose yourself in the process of trying to help everybody else. And like I told somebody about DMX, people say if he had an addiction problem, I don't know if he actually died from a drug overdose, because we hearing other things, right? People saying other things happen. So we don't really know. That's like how they. So when people say he died like that, is a way to dismiss his life. Like you want to be very dismissive of DMX because the way you think he died. But I'm not worried about that because, like my friend Mr. Emerson Abel Jr. told me a long time ago, nobody dies a natural death in show business. It's all game. It's all a trick. It's all smoke and mirrors, illusions, and stuff like that. But DMX left a contribution like Billie Holiday. I don't feel sorry for these type of people. I don't. You know, people make choices. Choices have outcomes. That's all of us. We all make choices. No, it was written. It was written. It was written. It was written. But you still have rewrites. You know, you make choices. We got free will. I believe we do. Even though this is a matrix. This is a game. This is a game. You still can have a choice in how the game is played out. Quarter by quarter, half by half, right? So DMX didn't have to die the way he died, but it is what it is. Maybe he had to die the way that he died. But to me, like I said, I don't focus on that type of stuff. There's people that get their kicks out of that stuff. It's just hard to be a human being, let alone a black man in this system that tried to destroy masculinity. No, DMX died today. Lil Nas X was born today. Lil Nas X was born today. And DMX died today. DMX was like, you know, he was black man masculinity in his own way. He was a shining prince for the streets. A shining prince for the streets, right? You know, it's kind of like Detroit Red became a rapper, right? Before he became Malcolm X or L. Haj Malik Shabazz. So I don't have anything bad to say about Brother DMX. I want to thank him for allowing himself to create songs that with the soundtracks and the anthems of my young adulthood. I appreciate that, coming through college, listening to Dog Man X, his motivational speaking. Like I said, man, there's nobody like DMX. You can't say that he's a copy of Tupac. Tupac, two different, like, you know, I look at two different types of rappers, but very sincere, vulnerable, sensitive souls who are trying to be real in a fake ass world. Because everybody ate off of Dark Man X, and they're gonna eat off his carcass as he, you know, they're gonna eat off him. Even in death, he's gonna get eaten out. It's like Billie Holiday. Just can't escape that. But they made their contribution. They made their contribution. I want to thank that, thank the universal God that Dark Man X was able to live as long as he was able to hold on and make this contribution. And thank y'all for sending in donations. Sister Sheila Wade, we really appreciate you. We love you madly. Brother Marcus, thank you so much. We love you madly. And thank everybody, you know, that's been very supportive of this journey. Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years. I can't believe it. It does not really pay the bills. You know, I make it a way to make it happen. But I love my people enough to give the best I have that I know of how to give at the time. So I hope, and people's like y'all receiving it. So, you know, another person that was born today that we're going to talk about before we, you know, start closing it down. I'm trying to get the show under 3 hours, I promise. We're going to talk about a phenomenal human being. Before I talk about my grandfather, like I said, Little Nas, Little Nasty X was born today. What, April 9th, 1999. And you know today, right? If you add up today's date, 4/9/2021, in terms of numerology, it adds up to 9. 9 is the number of completion of endings and beginnings in numerology, the number 9. My life path number is number 9. And the way you get your life path number is to add up your birth date or your birth date, your actual birth date. You add it up, and then it's how you find your life path number. So my life path number is actually 9. And today, if you add up today's date, I ain't talking about life path number, just add up the date, numerology speaking, it adds up to 9. And Prince Philip died today, 4/9/2021. He was age 99. So you got 999. You flip that over, it's 666. They both add up to 9. Because 9 times 3 is 27. 2 plus 7 is 9. 6 times 3 is 18. 8 plus 1 is 9. So that's interesting. This is very, like I said, a lot of occult things going on right now. All that energy. You can feel it in the air. Well, at least I can. Let me find. Okay. I think I'll find it. I got a lot of little tabs open up. I'm trying to make sure I get the right tab. No, that's my grandfather. So it's not the right one. Not yet anyway. Keep in mind, I said Lil Nas X was born. But another great man. That man right there. We're going to talk about Paul Robeson. More emphasis on Mr. Robeson. Old Man River, it keeps on running. Old Man River, it keeps on running. That old man river. Okay, we're going to talk about Paul Robeson. I think it's very important. I love Paul Robeson, one of my black heroes. Today is his birthday. He was born April 9th, 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey. Daddy was a prominent minister in Princeton, escaped slave. His mom came from a very prominent family in Philadelphia. Paul Robeson came from really good stock. He was very, very brilliant dude, amazing man. He was real black manhood, very masculine man, very brilliant man, and loved his black people that he gave up his career, and it cost him his quality of life. And unlike Malcolm and MLK, who were killed at 39, the American government and white supremacists saw it fit to torture Paul Robeson until he was an old man in his 70s. So we're going to give honor to Paul Robeson, the righteous ancestor, because God, the universe soul God has a phenomenal sense of humor, because, birthday is shared with Lil Nas X. So you got a guy who was the son of a preacher man, and then you got the other guy who gave Satan a lap dance. They were all both born on April the 9th. It's just balanced yin yang right there. Yin yang in this thing. Yin yang in this thing. So, okay. Let's talk about Mr. Robeson. And thank y'all for being patient as we make our way. Because this is We All Be, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep it under 3 hours. Paul Robeson is the tallest tree in our forest. Mary McLeod Bethune. Happy 123rd Life Affirmation Day to one of the greatest and most talented human beings to have ever lived. The righteous ancestor, Paul Robeson, was a force of nature and a one-man Wakanda man. This man was not only a phenomenal actor and singer, but he was also one of the first black All-American and professional football players. Phi Beta Kappa at Rutgers University, preeminent scholar who graduated at the top of his class at Columbia University, which included future New York governor and two-time U.S. presidential candidate Thomas Dewey. That's Columbia University School of Law. He was also a master linguist who spoke 20 languages fluently. Not bad for a son of a preacher man who was also a runaway slave. Talking about his old man, right? Possessor of a dynamic and rich singing voice, his rendition of Old Man River is considered the standard to this day. Paul Robeson was at one point one of the highest paid entertainers in the world, but he sacrificed his fame and fortune to fight a battle for Black, oppressed, poor, and working class people all around the planet. Paul Robeson was a GOAT artivist. Because of his outspoken nature on social justice issues and support of the Soviet Union, the U.S. government stripped Robeson's ability to make a living by taking away his passport and even sent folks like sports hero Jackie Robinson to slander his name in U.S. congressional hearings. He, along with William Patterson and others, charged the United States with committing menticide against Black Americans who were descendants of slaves and wanted the United Nations to acknowledge the claim. This was years before Malcolm X tried to do the same, and just recently, the United Nations completed a research study that states that the United States owed Black Americans reparations. Malcolm X was a big fan and admirer of Paul Robeson. It is said that Malcolm X mastered the art of public speaking and communication by listening to Paul Robeson on the radio and to his recordings. Right before he was assassinated, Malcolm planned a secret meeting with the great man. One could only imagine what could have been. Unlike Malcolm and MLK, who both were mercifully spared by the assassin's bullet before they turned 40, Robeson was tortured and abused by the wicked powers that be until he died at the age of 77. The righteous ancestor, Gil Noble, who was a superb journalist and storyteller, did a documentary in the 1970s to honor Robeson called The Tallest Tree in Our Forest, which features Paul Robeson himself, as well as an all-star cast of fans, friends, and admirers, including Harry Belafonte, Dizzy Gillespie, and Dr. John Henry Clark. And y'all can check out this stuff, this documentary at the Internet Archives, right? Archive.org. The Internet Archives is called The Tallest Tree in Our Forest. Paul Robeson documentary. Probably Google it up. It might be on YouTube, but it's available and it's worth watching. Long live the memory of the great righteous ancestor Paul Robeson. We love you madly, always and forever, man. Aries season, universe soul, royalty, Black Superman, and the GOAT, man. It's tribute to Paul Robeson, the one and only. So, I mean, our people are amazing, man. Like I said, Paul Robeson, family, background on both sides, very fascinating people, man. He came from very accomplished Black people. His mama's family were well off. Black Philadelphians, very prominent in Philadelphia society. Like I said, his father was a runaway. I mean, these folks are amazing. That's why it's important to learn our roots and our trees and to share this information with the people in your family. We're going to do some shows talking about how to, research your family trees. I'm going to have some special guests on in the near future, because I think a great source to go to is ancestry.com as a starter, and go from there, and also talk to the elders in your family, about the family history while you still can. Record them, document them, and especially they're still lucid in mind. They can still understand certain things. So I think that's very important. Like I said, I just found out recently, and I knew over the last several years of researching, that I'm blood cousins with Marvin Gaye and Curtis Mayfield, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and Big Miller, my cousin Big Miller, who was a national music hero up in Canada, who was from by way of Kansas City. I'm gonna talk about him in a future show as well too. But if I had known this growing up, I might be in a different place right now. I may have been easy for me to talk to girls growing up, women, be comfortable more around women. Might have had a whole bunch of baby mamas. Probably be richer than Kanye West right now if I knew that growing up. So I just want to say that. But anyway, yeah. So that's Paul Robeson. So yeah, for every little Nas X, you could counter that with a Paul Robeson, a man of God. not a man of Satan, not a fiend for Lucifer, but a man of God and a lover of his people. The tallest tree in our forest, Paul Robeson. He should never be forgotten about. Never. Actually, my cousin Julian Mayfield was close to Paul Robeson. He helped protect Paul Robeson's life during that race riot in the Catskills. That happened back in either late 1940s or early 1950s. Paul Robeson was almost lynched up in Catskills, New York, and my cousin Julian Mayfield helped preserve his life. So I come from some interesting people, and not only them. I mean, I got people in my family that fought in the Civil War, like the Moon Brothers, the famous Moon Brothers of Tunica County, Mississippi. I could trace my people all back to the Revolutionary War. I have ancestors that fought in the American Revolutionary War that I trace back to. So it's important to know this history. I wish I knew this while I was growing up, but everything happened when it happened, and I just want to make sure I could tell these stories in many different ways. So I hope y'all learning something. Let me see. Hope y'all can hear me loud and clear. Let me see. I'm trying to see comment section what y'all talking about. Let's see. I'm just reading the comment, trying to find, see what y'all talking about. Okay, let me move on. Let's make sure I talk about Paul Robeson. Also, let me see something. Let's see. I went to the National Portrait Gallery back in 2018. Yeah, if y'all get a chance, I don't know what it's like in DC right now. I don't know if it's open, but go to the National Portrait Gallery in DC. It's amazing. They got all these portraits of our national treasures, our celebrities, activists, athletes, politicians, all under one roof. That's where they had the famous Obama paintings, like the one that was done of him sitting in some grass, and his wife, the sister from Baltimore, did her portrait. But that's me with the Paul Robeson portrait in the National Gallery, the National Portrait Gallery in DC back in 2018. It was crazy, man. You could spend hours. You probably have to take a week just walking around there looking at all these amazing pieces of art. It's just amazing, man. And it's like it's our treasures, right? Because you don't have to pay any money to go in. It's taxpayer funded anyway, so you already paid your price of admission when you pay your taxes. So yeah, it was an interesting time, man. Like Paul Robeson, one of my heroes, man. I just not realized that I had a family connection to Paul Robeson until I found out about my cousin Julian Mayfield. So it's a wonderful time. So I don't know if it's open currently, but speaking of heroes in my family, I want to talk about my my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, Herbert Hurd. Today, April 9th, marks the 51st anniversary of his untimely demise. And he actually was murdered. And I'm going to talk about that. Let's see where I'm at. I think I'm on good for time. I want to do this. Okay, I'll play my tribute that I did when I went to my grandma's funeral back in August of 2016. I had a chance to visit his grave site. You know, she was buried in the same cemetery as my grandfather. And when I saw them put the dirt and the flowers on top of my grandma's grave, I went to my grandfather's grave to pay respects, to honor him. And like I said, I never met him. He died a decade before I was born. He died April 1970. I was born April of 1980, so I missed him by a decade. But I know his spirit because the work that I'm doing. You know, it's funny, like, you know, you're trying to find yourself. That's why I say you got to study your family trees and roots, because you actually are probably doing the work that the ancestors already did in your family. Like they left the blueprint. Like if you start studying the people in your family, a lot of the stuff that you do start to make sense. Like, oh, that's why I do. Like, knowing that I'm related to Julian Mayfield and he was involved in theater, playwright, activist, the stuff he did. Oh, it makes sense that I got a thing for theater. I love, I like acting and writing and drawing, paint, doing what I do. It makes more sense now that I got ancestors and people like that in my family that did work like this before me. So it was just like the marathon continues. So I'm going to play this tribute I did to my grandfather at his grave back in 2016. And then we'll, get into his story, and then we'll move on to the next. But I think I'm making good time. This is crazy, man. This is a crazy time to be alive, but it's a beautiful time to be alive. But just be kind and gentle and loving towards yourself so you can practice that with other people. So let me play this. I'll find a tab. Okay. So this is We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Senior, who was a World War II veteran, but also a soldier for civil and human rights for Black people, especially in the city of Saginaw. It was crazy to read the actual obituary. He passed away April 9th, 1970, under mysterious circumstances. He died in a very freakish work-related accident. He was actually crushed to death. But, he was well known for his involvement in human and Black rights in the city of Saginaw. So much so that the obituary in the paper called him a Black leader in the title. Actually called him a Black leader of the Saginaw community or concerned Blacks in Saginaw. So he actually was a leader that was well respected and revered by the Black citizens of Saginaw, Michigan. And it was crazy because I was thinking I cannot leave Saginaw without visiting his grave. I cannot go 13 hours back to Memphis before I see the grave of my grandfather, who is now an ancestor. And like I said, once I start investigating the roots of my tree, I found some very interesting and extraordinary and truly, in the words of the great Duke Ellington, beyond category people that I'll be talking more about. And also, let me clarify yesterday when I said it was a voice that came to me about 6 years ago in the summer of 2010. It didn't call itself I Am. It called itself the source. The voice called itself the source. So it wasn't I Am. It was the source. It actually said, I actually who are you, this voice, and it told me that I needed to research the background of my grandmother and her family tree. And I was not disappointed by what I found. And I will share more of that later on in the near future. But it was called the source. So it really had a very universal appeal. So I just want to honor my grandfather real quick with a tune, a salute, because he was a soldier for the right war. And I was not talking about World War II. He was indeed a truly exceptional member of the greatest generation. He fought for the greatest freedoms for his people, and he sacrificed himself. Because like I said, it was a freakish work accident. Matter of fact, my aunt Stephanie, she received a call just days before he died. This lady called her at college saying that her father was already dead. And my understanding, Aunt Stephanie called the house and he was eating dinner with the family, but I think he didn't really have a response. My understanding, the paraphrase what he said was like, not now. Not necessarily not now, but it ain't time yet, or you know, I guess he was getting ready for his eventual exit, and I'll have more information on that as well. But let me just go ahead and play this taps. It's hot, feel like down south, even though it's Michigan. So I'm gonna play taps in my own version of taps for my grandfather. We love you, manly. Herbert Hurd Sr.
This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News, news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
He stop back. Hold on. I want to get this.
You know, I miss. Yeah, you know, it was actually April 9th, 1970, and we had a physics assignment that was due.
Okay.
And at that time, she was Sister Joan Marie.
Wow.
And so at about 2:00, because I was supposed to be going home to meet my dad at just before 3 to get the car, because I had to go shopping for some graduation stuff.
Yes, sir.
And I misplaced the paper. And so then Mary Medell says, "You just go right ahead, I'll find it." And I'm on my way walking home, coming down 6th Street. And my dad comes up the road heading north. And he kind of swerved toward the sidewalk like he was going to stop and pick me up. And he just kind of waved and kept going. And so then I'm wondering, like, man, you know, like, I need the car. And lo and behold, 2 hours later, people come to the hospital and pick us up and say, you need to go to the hospital. It was a policeman. In fact, there was another guy here that was just talking to your uncle, Joe, that he was saying we've been knowing each other forever. It was his dad, the found a plant manager, and a policeman that came and picked us up from the house, and went and found out my father had been killed. So we definitely, it's not, I mean, some people might say it's a negative connection, but we definitely have a connection throughout the years. And that was 46 years ago. Wow. And now she's no longer Sister Jo Marie.
Well, I'm still Jo Marie, though.
She's still Jo Marie.
I'm still a sister to a lot of people.
She still is still a sister. In fact, she's my sister. And through the years, we have had family gatherings, and she is truly a part of the family. So
I'm so grateful for that.
Did I tell you I talked to Vincent yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Oh yeah, I did. Saw you last night.
That's right.
And I also want to ask you what's your thoughts about Herbert Hurd Sr.?
Of course, well, we were over to the house several times, but as far as education goes, he wanted an absolute quality education. So I taught chemistry and physics, and he said, make sure you give them the best background that you can.
That's right. Which was the reason we were going to parochial school, because he said they need that quality education. He was very big on education, very big.
So I'm trying to go with the fact that the obituary he had said black leader. That's interesting. They actually called him. So he was. He
was in terms of the civil rights movement, but in terms of we didn't have what was called a board of education, or maybe they did for the whole diocese. But he was intricately involved with the education at St. Joseph's. And it was, and people, in fact, if you talk to people in the community at that time, the education you got at St. Joe's was far superior than you got at any other school. And particularly because Father Brian was talking about the fact that even at the elementary level, the students there were reading way above grade level, because that was something that was pushed at that school. So,
and we took in a lot of students.
And we took in a lot of students who had been suspended and whatnot from other schools.
And we just added them to our whole community. And that's it. We had a community. Every Wednesday, remember? Our Wednesdays. We didn't have parents, even though they were Baptist or whatever, we were Catholic, they wanted some kind of a religious education. But what we did is we dedicated every Wednesday afternoon to an activity that would grow us in love with each other. And even once we walked down to the movie to see The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Remember that? But we would have one, and the students would all be involved in what was happening in those sessions. There would be 1 week would be students talking to each other on a particular theme. And there might be an introduction the week before. We might have a speaker come in, and once we walk to the movie theater, and then the last one would be a prayer service, but it was put together by the students, and it was very much student involvement in it all.
We were like a community.
We were very much like,
very much.
And you know how this, and I attribute this to Sister Ardith. She was Sister Richardine at the time as well, but she did so many things to involve students. You ordinarily have faculty meetings, and sometimes what happens is some people end up talking about this, I'm having trouble with this person in class, etc. To stop that from happening and for having a positive attitude, guess what? A student was invited to all of the faculty meetings, which was so wonderful.
I'll tell you something else that she was very instrumental in, is ours was the first graduating class where we did not graduate with the students from the rest of the diocese. Every year they had one graduation for all of the Catholic students throughout the city of Saginaw. And in our class, ours was the first one where we said, we don't want to do that. And she didn't particularly like the idea, but she respected it. And she left me with a phrase that I've carried all my life. She says, when you're walling out things, be careful she says, when you're trying to wall in things, such as us trying to make sure we kept ourselves secluded, she said, be careful what you're walling out. And I think that holds so much relevance for today, because we have the young people that are talking about me, and they're walling themselves in. But when they go out into society, we still live in America. And I'm particularly talking about Black students. You still live in America. And when you are walling yourself in, you need to be aware of what you're walling out, because you still have to function in this world. And like I said, she left me with that thought, and it has come to relevance so many times over the last 46 years. To be careful when you're walling something in. Be careful to know what you're walling out.
Well, I came to St. Joe's when I was 25 years old. Not very much older than my students were.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I am eternally grateful because I feel I was raised in this community.
Wow.
And I'm a much better person for it.
Which is what Father talked about today in his homily, is that you are left feeling better and you are a better person. So
Absolutely.
it's a touch of lives.
Wow. Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Wow, this is amazing. I was thinking about him today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop by here regardless if I'm going to go back home. I'm going to stop by here.
Yeah, they kept saying it. I thought they were going 7 paces this way, but it's 7 paces right across.
7. God.
7. 7. And it says 7.
I'm into numerology.
Yeah. 7. Yeah, 7 paces right across and
Wow.
right in the same line.
Wow. So it was meant to be.
Yep, it was meant to be. That was meant to be.
So
So that's my Uncle Herbert. The same day that we buried his mom, my grandmother Letha, she was buried 7 paces from her first husband. And now my grandma Letha is an interesting woman. She was married to an Indian from India, the Kamala people. One of Kamala's people was married to her for almost 42 years. He actually died, Grandpa Brito. He was from the country of India. He was an educator. He really loved my grandma. I'm gonna tell you why I know he loved my grandma, because after she passed away on August the 3rd, they found him dead in her favorite chair in the kitchen at the end of the month. So I think he passed away around August 28th or August 31st, like some 20-some days after she passed. He died of a broken heart, but he was found in her favorite chair in the kitchen in their home. And from my understanding, he used to write her love letters every day before he went to work as a college professor. And I think he started out as the principal or some educator of some of her children, because my grandma, she was a widow with 7 kids. And yet she was able to marry this Indian dude. You know, Indians have arranged marriages and stuff like that. So for this man to come from that continent, because he was educated, I believe, in Rome, Grandpa Brito, and he came to Michigan. And I don't know, I think he was married before her. I think he was married to a white lady before my grandma. And they just kind of fell in love. He fell in love with this woman with, a black widow. It's like some type of Diane Curl movie. Like it's like one of them 70 movies. Kid later live in the shoe where all these kids didn't know what to do, you know. And he fell in love with my grandma. He took her back to his homeland, and his father, thought that my grandma was a Mexican or Puerto Rican or something. He didn't know what to make. He know she was just American black, a foundational black American, or we call A.L.. And they were married for almost 42 years. And he died at the end of the month of a broken heart. In my grandma's favorite chair, he was found as he died of a heart attack. But let me talk about my biological grandfather. Like I said, I got an interesting family. Like you look at that side of the family, like United Nations over there. It's like Barack Obama's family, all them Filipinos and Indians and white people and stuff. It's an interesting side of my father's family. It's very interesting. But I'm gonna talk about my grandfather, because this is the 51st anniversary of his killing. Like, my Uncle Herbert said he was killed and he was murdered. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go on to some other stuff. Okay. So thank y'all for being patient. Crazy. Yeah, he was tall, dark, and handsome. He was the strong, silent type. All right. That's my grandfather, Herbert Hurd Sr. And thank y'all for being patient. I know it ain't everybody a cup of tea. People, we so ahistorical. We don't want to know the roots of anything. We just want to respond and be emotional all the time and trying to figure out why they don't do the right thing, because the devil is not qualified to give you mercy, only more hell. And I just want y'all to learn this history. So y'all talking about we need reparations. This is why we need reparations, because Black families matter. And when you take out the head of household, that affects the whole family. That's generational trauma. And it's quite evident that my grandfather was a great man, Herbert Hurd Sr. And I'm gonna read why in my own words. And I'm gonna read his obituary as well too. So this is We All Be, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. News Free Dixie for the 21st century. We All Be. So let's get on with it. April 9th, 2021 marks the 51st anniversary of the death of Herbert Hurd Sr., my paternal grandfather, under very questionable circumstances. He was crushed to death by a falling skylight at the foundry where he worked for 20 years. He was only 44 years young. He was the father of 8 children. 7 made it to adulthood. My aunt Stephanie Elaine Wilson, who was the eldest of the children, made her righteous ancestral transition last year, but the remaining 6 are still thriving. Grandfather Herbert was married to my beautiful grandmother Letha Brito for 20 years, the late Letha Brito. He was a real Black leader, community organizer, and artivist in his own right. He was a real man of action, and he loved his people, Black people. He was tall, dark, and handsome, and also epitomized the strong, silent type. But when he spoke, people paid attention, like E.F. Hutton. See how it works, man? Please read the obit that came out in the local newspaper in Saginaw, Michigan, concerning his life that is included with this post. I'll read it for y'all. The title says, Leader of Concerned Blacks Dies. That pretty much sums up who he was. What happened at that foundry was no accident. He was murdered. But most murders are hard to prove. My beautiful Aunt Stephanie Elaine Wilson, my grandparents' eldest child, received a phone call while away at college from a female who told her that her father was dead. She called home in a panic and understandably upset by the bad news. However, my grandfather was still very much alive and having dinner with the family. I believe my grandmother answered the phone and told her that it wasn't true and that he was currently having dinner with the family. From my understanding, when grandfather found out what traumatized his daughter, he replied with something akin to "not yet," in a calm and stoic manner. I was told other things about my grandfather's last days that I would save for another time, but from what I was able to gather, he already knew that he was fated to die young. I never had the chance to meet my grandfather in the flesh because he died a decade before I was born. However, I know and have met his spirit. It is a true honor to have his DNA and blood running through me. I am blessed to be a part of his living legacy, and I hope before I leave this mortal coil, I can pass it on to another generation, man. My God work speaks for itself, and I know that the best is yet to come somewhere, man. Rest well, Granddad Herbert, and may you also continue to inspire from beyond the grave or the great beyond. We love you madly. Your grandson, S-U-N. I'm going to read the obituary that came out back in April 1970 in the local newspaper in Saginaw. Leader of Concerned Blacks Dies by Frank J. Kuntz, staff writer. Saginaw's Negro community lost one of its behind-the-scenes leaders with the death Thursday evening of Herbert Hurd, 44 of 134 South 12th. He was killed Thursday in an accident at the Chevrolet Gray Iron Foundry. A skylight fell from the roof and pinned him beneath it. Foundry officials who said they weren't sure what caused the skylight to fall were investigating the accident today. Mr. Hurd was one of the leaders Mr. Hurd was one of the leaders of Concerned Saginaw Black people. Although his name didn't appear in the news, he was active in many fields. He served on the Saginaw Area Catholic Board of Education, was a member of the board of directors of the Saginaw Model City Involvement Corporation, and helped organize programs at First Ward Community Center. Mr. Hurd and Reuben Daniels, director of the First Ward Center, were close friends. I went to him often for advice, says Daniels, and much of the advice he gave me, I put into practice at the center. We never argued, but he always seemed to be able to see things in a different way. He never said much, but what he said was very effective. I don't think I ever seen a better father or family man. Mr. Hurd was very interested in Negro history and often loaned books on the subject to his friends. Although his formal education wasn't impressive, Mr. Hurd was ambitious. He wanted to be a television repairman. After working at the foundry for 20 years as a production worker, he entered the electrician apprenticeship program last year to gain the training he wanted. Born in Guthrie, Oklahoma, March 13th, 1926, he moved here in 1949 to take the job at the foundry. He married Letha French at Auburn, Indiana in 1950. He was a member of St. Joseph's Catholic Church, where he helped organize the adult education program. He was also a member of UAW Local 668, and at one time was the district committeeman. Harry W. Brown, a former UAW, that's United Auto Workers, 668 officer, was saddened by Mr. Hurd's death. He was just an interested guy, says Brown. There are too few of them around. We could use more men like him. In addition to his wife, Mr. Hurd leaves 3 daughters and 4 sons. Funeral arrangements will be made by the Brown mortuary. So this is came out April 1970. It's my grandfather. And yeah, reading that obit gives me a better understanding about why I'm interested in things I'm interested in, like, you know, living to serve people, being very appreciative of knowledge, trying to share that knowledge with people, interested in Black history. See, some of that came out of him, I believe. And he was a World War II veteran as well, too. So he believed in serving people and giving the best of himself to a cause, even to put himself in harm's way for a sad cause. I talked to my grandmother, Letha, back in 2013 about my grandfather on the phone. And she told me some interesting things. She know that he was murdered. She believed it. And one of the things she told me was the fact that when he got killed, people in his inner circle all got promotions at the job. When he was murdered at the job, people that he was close to on the job, you know, being a union organizer, they all got promotions at the job. And they told their wives, do not ever talk to my grandmother again. So their wives cut themselves off from my grandmother because their husband said, do not talk to her again. And all those guys got promotions. So it's like Shakespearean, who benefits from the death of the king? His so-called friends benefited from the death of the king. And my grandma, she received, you know, checks from the foundry, from Chevrolet, whatever, until my Aunt Kathy was able to leave home. Until my Aunt Kathy came of age, she received checks on the regular from, you know, Chevrolet, the foundry, whatever. So, yeah, he was killed because he knew it was coming. You know, working in that industry, being a union organizer back in the day was a very dangerous job. Labor organizer. You know, they just talking about Amazon that was able to beat the union organizers down in Alabama, whatever. But, you know, the powers that be sold out the labor movement. The labor movement helped create the middle class in this country. You know, the origins of labor, of unions, it was all about keeping skilled Black folks from working. But, you know, you hear people like Walter Reuther, who was close to Dr. King. They tried to kill him back in the 40s. You know, they shattered his arms into 200 pieces or whatever, trying to assassinate him at home. And they shot his brother in the face. His brother lost an eye. This Walter Reuther, a white man who did stuff for the civil rights movement. He got killed in a horrific plane crash along with his wife not too long after Dr. King. I want to say it happened back in May of 1970. But, you know, people know about Jimmy Hoffa. He disappeared. But a lot of people don't know about Walter Reuther or Ruther. You know, Ruther, you know. People in Detroit, Midwest, they know about Walter Reuther or Reuther, you know, German, I think. But anyway, yeah. So, like, you know, what I do, I try to, you know, share the information Like I'm the one in my family that travels around the country to get to know kinfolk, and I'll, record or document their stories, and I try to share it on platforms like my We All Be TV channel so my other cousins and relatives can know about their history. And so it is interesting. My grandma passed. All the cousins and relatives came around the country, and people were surprised. I didn't grow up with I didn't really know my father's side of the family well. I didn't grow up with my father's side of the family because my mom and dad got divorced before I was 2 years old. So I I was closer to my mama's side of the family. And my father didn't take me around his people like that. It was like, so I got older, I started traveling. And when I used to visit my mom's relatives in Saginaw, they would leave me behind, stuff like that. So really, my father didn't really help me to get to know his people. But when my grandma passed, and I went to, everybody knew I was, people was like, man, they all know Ron. Like I had cousins from South Carolina and Kansas City and other places. Oh, yeah, we know Ron. Ron come visit us, and he, spend some days doing research on the family and stuff like that. So that's why it's important to talk about this. That's why I know I'm doing this. I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm doing this for posterity, to share this information, make it accessible to family members, and to tell these stories. My thing is, I thought I was supposed to be dying for Black people. Now I'm supposed to be living for myself and being a service to Black people. My job is not to die for y'all. My job is to teach, to provide counter perspective on things, to promote critical thinking, and just to be me. I'm not going to die for anybody. I'm going to save myself. But while I'm saving myself, I will share what I know with the people. And it's up to you to either receive or reject it, but it's not my problem. I'm not interested in having followers. I don't want to be a cult leader. Not interested in it. I just want to share information. I like to make a living and take care of myself and find true love, that type of stuff. Normal people shit. So yeah, that's my grandfather, Herbert Hurd Sr. It's an honor to be related to him. Like I said, I never met him, but I know his spirit. I am his grandson, so I'm doing the work. Maybe it skip a generation. I don't know. They ain't killed me yet. They ain't let them kill. Ain't gonna be no easy target either. But he knew it was coming. So hopefully I could talk to my Uncle Herbert. Y'all saw in that clip. Because he had a lot of other interesting stories about my grandfather's premonitions. Like he knew you're trying to, I ain't gonna get too deep into it. But let's see. I think I touched upon everything for the most part. Everything else is like extra credit. I play this with Bobby Gregory. I got a lot of Bobby Dick Gregory stuff in the archives. Like I said, when I get the money, the grant money, I can update it, remaster the audio, all their good stuff. People be audio snobs. But like I said, I know what I was doing. I was doing this stuff. Just was doing stuff. Let me see. Play this Bobby Dick Gregory clip. He talked a little bit about Paul Robeson and UFOs and indigo children. So I guess it fits the time. Bobby Dick Gregory knew so much. Like I said, I'm never missing Bobby Dick Gregory. He speaks to me all day, every day, through people, through movies, through videos. Just by me being still and meditating, he comes to me. It's crazy.
If you got secrets in your house, what do you think a white racist in-frame system that, what do you think they would do? Huh? See, it's not about racism. It's about a whole racial piece to control the whole world, and they're doing it. Black folks is 97% of the world's population. Non-white folks, black folks is 3%. Huh? Controls the whole planet because they come together. The Russians work with the when they was after Paul Robeson communist. He go to Russia, they communist. When they messed Paul Robeson up, he was in a hotel in Russia. Turn on TV, they zapped him through the TV. That's Russia in America. And so when we look at white supremacy, all these people seeing unidentified flying objects, and all of them come and testify and they say, you lying, you didn't see that. Why? Because once we have to admit says aliens, white supremacy go out the window. Organized religion go out the window. There's no way my grandmother has anything in her head to let her believe there could be a Baptist on Mars. And worse than anything, we would become Earthlings. We'd be Earth people. There wouldn't be no California, New York, or Germany, or Africa. It'd be Earth people. And that's what this is all about. But they're not going to get away with it because there's too much going on now. There's a new group of people that started being born in 1985 called indigo children. We sitting here waiting on the second coming of Christ. You better check out them indigo children. They born with IQs of 200 and go up. Then after that came the crystal, and now this year come the fifth child. So they're in trouble. They're dealing with stuff they can't deal with. They're dealing with stuff that their bums don't work with. And that's what this is about. And that's where it's going.
And that was the timely wisdom of Baba Dick Gregory. Telling like it is, man. Baba was ahead of his time. Like I said, sometimes Baba may not get you to the right house and get you the right zip code, because he was truly a thought provocateur. Like I said, I don't mention Baba. I don't miss him that much because I'm in touch with Baba Dick Gregory every day. And you know, it is what it is. So like the righteous ancestors told me, or ancestors, stars. I said stars, not stores. Stars, like in the star people, mother wheel, all that stuff. Nobody really dies. Like people say, oh, he died. It's so tragic. No, you can't kill energy. Spirit, you can't kill spirit. It just transfers. But he talked about Paul Robeson being zapped through a TV. And Paul Robeson, they gave him something over in Russia where he allegedly tried to commit suicide. Because, you know, the government does that type of wicked stuff. Like I said, they torture Paul Robeson. They let Malcolm and Martin off easy by just shooting them and getting it out the way. They basically tortured Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was amazing. They were amazing. And so he talked about UFOs and, you know, all this stuff about UFOs. You know, aliens been here. You know, check out the incident that happened in Cape Girardeau, I believe, Missouri. Back in, this is before Roswell. I think it happened in 43, the UFO crash in Cape Girardeau. And they allegedly got pictures of white dudes with these UFOs, with these aliens. And allegedly a preacher up in Cape Girardeau made a deathbed confession to his family, saying that he was called upon by the law enforcement and the military to minister the last rites to these UFOs, to these aliens. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff like, you know, Lost City of Atlantis. It's a lot of stuff they're not telling us. You know, crop circles, all this stuff. People think this is fantasy, but yet, you know, I ain't gonna get to it. People kind of, it's weird what people are willing to believe versus what they refuse to acknowledge as fact. Well, you know, people, human psychology or human nature is very fascinating. And you know, April 12th marks the anniversary of the start of the American Civil War. April 12th, 1861. Also, it marks one of the most horrific chapters in American Civil War history. The Fort Pillow Massacre happened on April 12th, 1864. 300 Black U.S. colored troops, well, I guess, you know, Black women and children, and I guess white soldiers were massacred by the Confederate forces of General Nathan Bedford Forrest at Fort Pillow, Tennessee, which is near Henning, Tennessee, where Alice Haley People is from. So, you know, and Nathan Bedford Forrest, you know, he was one of the biggest slavers or slave traders in the whole country. And also he's one of the fathers of private prisons, you know, prison for profit. And also he's the founder of Forest City, Arkansas. That's where they kept T.I., the rapper, in federal prison. And Forest City, Arkansas, which is also the birthplace of the one and only Al Green. Love and happiness. April 13th. Al Green was born in Forest City, Arkansas, April 13th. Is that our reparations? This guy who was a Klansman, the first Grand Wizard and war criminal that slaughtered out on Black people. So his city that he named after him, after himself, gave us Al Green. And we're going to talk about Al Green. I got some stories to tell about Al Green. We're gonna talk about him on his birthday, Lord willing. I actually met Al Green. He got a church in Memphis in Whitehaven, and most of the people that go to that church are not from Memphis. They like not only outside of the states, outside the states. They come from Italy and China and Japan and Australia. You got all these folks from around the world that come to see Al Green at his church on Sundays, but not a lot of people in Memphis come. It's interesting to see what happened when he makes his transition, how people gonna have all this, we love him so much and all this stuff, kind of like DMX probably. But I had to get Judge Joe Brown on here to tell me some Al Green stories. He got some Al Green stories too. I know. We're gonna talk about the grits, the hot grit night. I'm gonna talk about that on his birthday. I plan to anyway. I got some information I want to share with you all because I heard several different versions of that story. And whatever happened that night, all I know was Al Green said, Jesus calling. Jesus is calling, man. Jesus calling me. Jesus calling me. So let's see what else. Yeah, we talked about on the show, right? I talk about Lester Young and Billie Holiday on her birthday. And I didn't have that shirt that I want to show y'all I did in honor of Lester Young and Billie Holiday. I got it available now. It's on, like, if you go past this description thing to our Teespring shelf, you can access it from there. 'Cause I got a lot of artwork that the world has never seen. Over 20-some years worth of art. I'm trying to figure out ways to get out there to the people and stuff like that. Looking forward to having some art shows. I don't know how that looks going forward in the future. Maybe I'll be virtual, but I heard the Louvre, the famous museum in Paris, that's called the Louvre or Louvre. They put all this stuff online where people can access it and watch. So you don't even have to go to Paris anymore. Just go online. Take a look. It's all online. You can access it. Yeah, but it's the shirt. Go to our Teespring site. And I did this shirt, Lady in the Press. Like they were musical soulmates, man, like no other. Brilliant. $27, R2C2H2's place, R2C2H2's place at our Teespring location. Get the website right here. It's $27. Can't beat it. Lady Day in the Press. That's me. Oh, yeah. I love them. They died just several months apart. Lester Young left this world at the young age of 49. March 15th, 1959. Lady Day left this world, left the stage July 17th, 1959. She was heartbroken because the family of Lester Young would not allow her to sing at Prez's funeral. Because they had a falling out at one point, but they made amends, I guess, towards the end. It's a great clip of them playing together on TV. You can find on YouTube. Billie Holiday singing a song, Fine and Mellow, that she wrote. I didn't know Billie Holiday could write songs like that. I knew she wrote God Bless a Child, but I didn't know she was prolific in writing songs. I knew she could sing anybody's song and make it until it hit. But he's out there, he playing a solo behind her, and just look at her face while he's playing. Her body language is priceless. You tell they had a love for each other. It was not about sexual attractions. It's more about kindred spirits and stuff like that. So yeah, you can buy that shirt, man. Tribute. I might get Dr. Lester Young II or Jr. on here one day as well too. And like I said, bloodlines matter. And I want to, because Lester Young come from, like I'm saying, like DMX, you don't know what his bloodline is, because DMX was a special human being. So I'd be interested to see how his kids, what they end up doing with their lives. DMX had a whole bunch of kids. My understanding, we know he has at least 15 kids. Probably got more than that. I remember DMX said, "These girls be raping me. I wake up, they be on my dick. I don't know what's going on." Man gotta do what a man gotta do. Here we go again. But I love DMX, man. But let me show Lester Young's brother. Like I said, he came from a very unique background. They followed like Joe Jackson before Joe Jackson. He was like it came from Lester Young family was a family of musicians. Daddy from New Orleans, people from New Orleans. But Lester was born in Woodville, Mississippi, August 27, 1909. only lived to be 49 years young, but his son and daughter both got PhDs. So I mean, the family is very accomplished. I want to talk about his brother, who almost made it to 100 years young. Lee Young, almost made it to 100 years young. That's his brother, handsome guy, very prolific musician, drummer for everybody, the who's who of the jazz world. Even did work for Motown as far as like producing stuff. But I'm gonna read his obit from the New York Times. And what's interesting about him, he probably could have made it to 100 plus, but what happened from my understanding was that he had some surgery done and that the doctors left instruments inside his body that gave him a bacterial infection. So he died from the doctors leaving tools. See, if you don't understand, a lot of things could go wrong in surgery. That's why they make you sign those release forms, whatever. So you can't, they won't be liable, I guess, because, doctors leave stuff inside of people all the time. It's called a practice for a reason. They don't know, like they be leaving tools because a lot of these people be on drugs. A lot of these doctors be doing drugs. They got access to some of the best drugs in the world. It's like, you remember that show, Nurse Jackie, Edie Falco, who played on The Sopranos for years, the wife of Tony Soprano. She played a nurse that was addicted to drugs. And the reason why she was so addicted because she had access to the drugs at the hospital. So, a lot of these professionals be doing all, not just, pharmaceutical drugs, but they be doing cocaine, all types of stuff. So I believe they left some instrument or two inside his body after they sold him up, and that's where he died from. So he actually could have lived to be over 100 years old, but things happen. Life happens, man. So is that a tragic life? I mean, he lived to be almost 100. Let's talk about what he did with his almost century of living. That's Lee Young. So I'm going to read his obit from the New York Times. He died back in 2008. Okay. Lee Young dies at 94, jazz man and producer. Lee Young, who emerged from a family with musical roots deep in New Orleans jazz, drummed for greats like Ellington and Basie, became a pioneering black man in music's executive suites, and survived his musician brother Lester by half a century. Died on July 31st at his home in Los Angeles. He was 94. The death was confirmed by his grandson, Ren Brown. In contrast to his brother, whose debilitating battle with alcohol and personal demons is almost as well known to jazz fans as his saxophone solos, Lee Young, a teetotaler, lived a long life of accomplishment in both performance and the music business. His recollections from touring in a carnival act as a child with Lester and their sister Irma in the 1920s, to playing drums and cutting his first records with Fats Waller, in the 1930s, to help him forge a vibrant jazz scene in Los Angeles in the 1940s, were recorded by the Oral History Program of the University of California, Los Angeles, also known as UCLA. His experience teaching Mickey Rooney to play drums for a movie and become the first black and for several years the only one to be a regular studio musician in Hollywood. He played drums and conducted for Nat King Cole. Fascinating. Mr. Young played on literally thousands of records, said Phil Schaap, the jazz historian. As a record producer, Mr. Young developed a reputation for knowing in advance what would sell and discovered Steely Dan, the jazz fusion rock band. Mr. Schaap called Mr. Young a most significant figure in jazz who directly connected us to the music's early glories, the birth of jazz in New Orleans, the jazz age, the swing era, and bebop. Mr. Schaap also said that Mr. Young, who led an integrated band when that was unusual, was a hero in the fight for integration. Leonidas Raymond Young was born in New Orleans on March 7, 1914, to parents who were both musicians and teachers. His father had learned to play instruments, including the violin, trombone, and bass, as he traveled the Deep South at the time jazz was sprouting in New Orleans. Mr. Young's father was a stern taskmaster, drilling music into his children by putting notes on a blackboard before they even started school. He made them into a novelty dancing act for traveling carnivals until they learned to play instruments. Lee, the youngest, had visited more than 30 states by the time he was 8 years old. Lee was different from Lester as a youth. Lester would practice his saxophone for hours. Lee would rather sneak off to play ball. Lester begged off some of the vaudeville gigs, particularly longer stays in cities like Minneapolis and Phoenix. The family finally settled in Los Angeles, where Lee and his sister entertained at the dance marathons that were the rage during the Depression. By this time, Lee was performing most often as a drummer, having switched from the trombone. Lester had decided to specialize in saxophone instead of drums, and the rest is history, I guess. Lee attended high schools in Los Angeles. He began playing with Mutt Carey, a trumpeter and band leader who had gotten his start in New Orleans and also toured with Ethel Waters. He made his first records at 23 as Fats Waller's drummer. He played with Lionel Hampton and others and started his own orchestra, actually a smaller combo. His brother joined the band in 1941, and his stature grew exponentially. They toured for the USO, broadcast with Billie Holiday, and were a hit in New York. LA Weekly said in 2004 that Mr. Young for years was the only black staff musician at a major studio. Mr. Schaap wrote that Mr. Young got his job by turning down a chance to be Stan Kenton's drummer at a time when Kenton led the nation's hottest band. In 1953, Mr. Young became Nat King Cole's drummer and conductor, Mr. Schaap said. From this pinnacle of the music world, he had new insights into the business side of music and decided to join it. He produced for VJ, Motown, and ABC Dunhill Records. Around 1937, Mr. Young met a teenager named Norman Granz on a tennis court and began playing against him regularly. Granz was enthralled when Mr. Young introduced him to jazz and went on to create Jazz the Philharmonic, the all-star touring group that took the music out of smoky bars to jam in the concert halls. Mr. Young and his brother could be heard on some of the recorded jam sessions. Lester Young died in 1959. Irma died in 1993. Lee Young is survived by his wife, Geraldine, his daughter, Rosalind Brown of Los Angeles, his son, Lee Jr. of Los Angeles, his half sister, Vivian Johnson of Louisiana, 6 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. Mr. Young was interviewed for a book, Central Avenue Sounds, Jazz in Los Angeles, and said that when the music industry was segregated, white musicians were paid for 7 nights of work, even though they were given 1 day off, while blacks had to work all 7 days for their pay. I just loved to play so much. I went to different clubs and told the guys that if they wanted a night off, I would play in their place, Mr. Young said. So I got a chance to play all kinds of music because I used to let these guys off. Yeah, so that's Lester Young's lesser known brother, who was very accomplished and lived longer than his brother, almost twice the age of his brother. And probably would have lived longer if it was for that freak accident at the hospital, from my understanding from one of my sources, which was Phil Schaap, the guy who was quoted in this article, because Phil Schaap, I believe he still got a radio show he does at Columbia University that's really all about bird and jazz music. It's a great show. And he used to interview Lee Young a lot. And I remember one interview he did with Lee Young, he talked about Jimmy Lunsford, my guy, my favorite guy. You know, he said Jimmy Lunsford was a hell of a pitcher. Was a hell of an athlete because he had a baseball team. A lot of the jazz band leaders sponsor baseball teams. I believe Count Basie had a baseball team. Jimmy Lunsford, I think Louis Armstrong had his own baseball team. Sometimes they would play against each other. But Jimmy Lunsford was a phenomenal athlete. Very accomplished boxer, track star, basketball, football, and in addition to music. So he was saying Jimmy Lunsford could actually pitch. So that I remember him in one of Phil Schaap interviews. But that's the ancestor, Lee Young, the younger brother of Lester Young. And I guess their family is unique. Used to do traveling circuses and all that stuff. So that's why we got to talk about our history, because it's National Jazz Appreciation Month. And I think it's important to talk about these type of people. Like people say, well, Brother Ron, we tired of you talking about this type of stuff. Well, the people that support this platform, I got to honor y'all. I got to give y'all this stuff because this is what y'all want. And do your own research on it. This is so much information that we don't know. It's like Harry Truman said, The only thing new is the history that you don't know. So if you don't know, now you know. So, let me see what else we can talk about. Yeah, I was saying about DMX earlier, like he actually saved Def Jam. It reminds me kind of like what Nat King Cole, because the guy Lee Young worked for Nat King Cole. Nat King Cole is the guy who created Capitol Records, right? He actually created Capitol Records. People always talking about Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, I love Frank Sinatra. You can't touch Nat King Cole. Because not only was Nat King Cole a great singer, this man could play piano like nobody's business. You know, the Nat King Cole trio changed the game. As far as jazz combos and stuff, Nat King Cole was amazing. You know, he was from Alabama, son of a preacher man like Sam Cooke. He grew up in Chicago. Chicago, that toddling town. And Nat King Cole was just a class act. I mean, not only was he a class act, think about his daughter, Natalie Cole. I mean, bloodlines matter. I still remember Unforgettable like it was yesterday, the one she did where she did a duet with her father, even though her father been dead for decades. They did a duet together, and I think he won a Grammy. The marvels of modern technology, So now they doing holograms of dead celebrities now, and they got this phenomenon. Y'all thought that Judge Joe Brown was not a real person, that was like artificial intelligence. They got the deep fake. Thank y'all. Got a very educated following here. Y'all told me about the deep fake, and I had to look at it and saw the CNN article and the news video where they got this Tom Cruise account on TikTok, and it looks like Tom Cruise, sound like Tom Cruise, moves like Tom Cruise, but it wasn't Tom Cruise. It's very much risky business. It was artificial intelligence posing as a real person, a celebrity at that. So it's just like when Donald Trump talking about fake news, it's very prophetic because you don't know what to trust in the news these days. You don't know what's real and what's fake. It's not the great age of information or the age of technology. It's the age of manipulation. It's the great age of deceit. Where they treat gossip like facts and information like rumors. Where they treat gossip like facts and information like rumors. This is the age of the great receipt. That is a receipt or great deceit. The great deceit. Okay, anyway. I think I'm doing good on time. What time is it? I think I'm gonna get out of here. I'm just looking, see what I can add. Maybe I think I covered everything I wanted. Yeah, also April 12th. I said we talking about 4 Pillar Massacre anniversary. April 12th, also the beginning of Civil War. And also April 12th is when Franklin Roosevelt died under mysterious circumstances down in Warm Springs, Georgia, while allegedly sitting for his portrait, unfinished portrait. A lot of people believe he was murdered. Franklin Roosevelt, I should look into that because people in his inner circle was dying around him, like people that were close to him, AIDS and stuff, they were dying, crazy deaths. A lot of people believe that Roosevelt was being slow poisoned. Then some people say he was shot on the day that he died. Somebody shot him. And I remember reading Stalin talking to one of Roosevelt's sons, telling him that your father was murdered. That's what Stalin told one of Roosevelt's sons. There's a lot around that. Like I said in a previous podcast, that Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois even mentioning like in passion. Oh yeah, that time when they murdered Franklin Roosevelt, it was like something like that. Like it was like an open secret that everybody knew that Roosevelt was murdered. And so it's interesting to look at Pearl Harbor. The anniversary is coming up, right? Of Pearl Harbor was the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. December 7, 2021 will be the 80th anniversary. And there's been a lot of speculation over the years that America knew that the attack was coming, but they did not want to do anything because the government under Roosevelt wanted to get involved in Pearl Harbor. They want to use that as a justification for America's entry into World War II because majority of Americans was against our entry into the war among the Europeans. We didn't want no part of that war. And like I told y'all before, Roosevelt family fortune was made by his maternal grandfather, Warren Delano Jr., who was one of the biggest drug dealers in American history. He was selling opium to the Chinese. So he profited from the opium wars back in the day. And that's how he made the family fortune. And some sources say that one of the reasons why Roosevelt wanted to get involved was to get back control of the Golden Triangle. He wanted to control the Asian drug trade for the family. Like all these guys, multiple gangsters like Joe Kennedy and, all these guys that we admire, there's nothing but filth. And they curse their families with their ill-gotten gains. Look at the Kennedy family. How's that working out for them over the decades, right? JFK's mom, Rose Kennedy, lived to be over 100 years old. So she saw all that tragedy, all the deaths of her, some of her children. Not just the Kennedy brothers, but they lost a sister, Catherine, in a horrific plane crash over in Europe with her husband. Then you got one of the Kennedy daughters, the dead allowed them to perform a lobotomy on her, and they scrambled her brain, and she got messed up real bad. And they kept her head in the mental institute for decades. She passed away not too long ago. That was one of the reasons why Eunice Kennedy Shriver, Maria Shriver's mom, I think it's Shriver, right? Her daddy was Sergeant Shriver. That's one of the reasons why they started the Special Olympics in honor of her sibling being screwed up mentally. I forgot her name. I forgot the name of that sibling was Rosemary or something. I don't know. Y'all can look that up. I don't have time to look all this up. But, because people thought there was going to be a campaign issue for Kennedy, the fate of his sister being a mental institution, because it's still like a taboo subject. But her father messed her up, because he was just different. And he said, man, something wrong with my daughter. I need to modify her behavior and end up screwing her up for the rest of her life. So, sins of the father, right? The father was messing around with Gloria Swanson, the biggest star in Hollywood during her time. Then his sons ended up messing around with Marilyn Monroe, the biggest, star of her time. So like father, like son. So it's deep. But that Franklin Roosevelt stuff is deep, man. Cause it's funny, it's hard to solve a murder, to prove a murder, right? It's hard to prove those things. But even now, was that former football player down in South Carolina? That was horrible, man. He killed the doctor that was treating him. Not only killed the doctor, but killed the wife and killed the two grandkids, two of their grandchildren. And what's his name? Philip Adams, that football player, used to play in the NFL. His father said football messed up his brain, probably. And then you think about the brother Noah Green in that Capitol Hill side last week. They say he was a victim of CTE, maybe. Football messed up his brain, scrambling his brain. Why not ban football? They actually added one more game to the season. That's ridiculous. You guys are already getting their bodies torn up for other people's entertainment. You want to add another game? And, don't let these people fool you. That like they losing so much money. Even if you look at basketball, people talking about, the ratings are down. But look how much money Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, made last year during a damn pandemic. These folks ain't losing money. They're getting richer. They're getting wealthier. But they're evaporating the middle class. They're trying to destroy the small business class. They're trying to destroy people. They don't care about people, man. They don't care about your pain and suffering. They don't care about us. What Michael Jackson said, all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Tupac said it too. They don't really care about us. Y'all want sympathy from the devil. The devil ain't qualified to give you sympathy. The devil is only qualified to give you more hell. So this is where we at. So why not cancel football? They almost canceled football at the beginning of the 20th century. The football was so dangerous. One of our presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, was a big fan of football. But they're trying to find their best way to cancel football. And really, I think about the brother who did the murder-suicide down in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Think about that brother, Noah Green. Oh, my God. I think about Junior Seau. Junior Seau, one of the greatest defensive players in the NFL history. He committed suicide. I think he shot himself in the chest so they can have his brain to, look at his brain, to study his brain. He was that cognizant of what he was doing. He shot himself in the chest. But before that, I think people don't remember, he actually drove himself off a cliff to try to kill himself by driving off a cliff in California. He survived some type of way, but ended up taking his life by shooting himself in the chest. So he wanted his brain to be preserved for scientific study. And they found out he was messed up real bad with the CTE. And so I don't know. Our bodies are not made to take that type of punishment. And people talking about they make too much money. They don't make enough money for what they're doing to their bodies. They're not making enough money. They're not. Gladiator is brutal. And yeah, y'all look up to these people. They're not making the best decisions for themselves. You need to preserve your health by any means necessary. Playing football ain't the stuff. I remember when Patrick Willis, the great Patrick Willis, he retired. And, you know, Patrick Willis would have been a shoe-in Hall of Famer, right? Played for the 49ers. I think with Ole Miss guy. He said, the hell with that. Because I know a football legend, Curtis McClinton. He was a fullback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Played in the first Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs when they won their first Super Bowl under the legendary coach Hank Stram. He, from my understanding, sued the NFL for CTE things, right? For cognitive issues. This guy is a brilliant. Curtis McClinton. I used to have a big crush on his daughter. She used to work at the school. Used to work at WashU in St. Louis. I used to have the biggest crush on his daughter. And he actually sued the NFL back in the early 2010s or 2010s or whatever you call it. He got a PhD. Now you gotta understand, Curtis Clinton was an activist, scholar, athlete. He's in that famous picture standing behind Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem and all them guys, where they were standing around in solidarity with Muhammad Ali. He's in that picture in the background, standing up. He also worked with Jim Brown on his economic organization, trying to create economic opportunities for Black people. He worked with Jim Brown on that. So he was very outspoken, very accomplished, educated brother. He could also sing like Paul Robeson. One of his heroes is Paul Robeson. So I got some of his opera CDs that he done over the years. But you know, when you talk to him, I interviewed him for several hours in his beautiful home in Kansas City, outside the Kansas City area. He would sometimes repeat himself, but he would, you know, he could talk. I mean, he could recall. His memory was sometimes he would repeat, and then also he had no cartilage left in his knees. So it was interesting. Like, this guy was a fullback, and he played with Fred Williamson, the Hammer. This guy is Fred Williamson. That's his name. Black Caesar. He played with him. He knew OJ very well. But you can look at all that video interviews I did with him on We All Be TV. So it was interesting. Like, you know, he made a comfortable life for himself. Successful family man, married, beautiful woman, wife, beautiful daughter, just a good life, but he paid a price with his body for that life. And, you know, he didn't make all the money, because it's back in the early days, right? He didn't make the money that these guys are making now, but even when these guys are making the type of money they're making now, you cannot replace your body. Because, like, if you live long enough, that stuff catches up with you if you live long enough. Like, look at DMX. I don't know how he really died. Got rumors and speculation and Jack, you know, I don't know. But the human body can only take so much punishment. It's like people say, well, they get older, they don't move the same, injuries, like, oh, my body's betraying me. Nah, your body didn't betray you, you betrayed your body. You took it for granted. You took your body for granted. A lot of us do. I'm just now learning how to really appreciate my body in my 40s now. Because, I mean, 40 is 40, man. You just got to learn how to accommodate, adapt, adjust. You know what I'm saying? Can't eat certain things. Got to be more cognizant of getting your rest. You got to really listen to your body. You get older, because if you don't listen to your body, you fuck. I mean, I'm part of my friends. I mean, you just got to, your body says time to chill out. It's going to be time to chill out, or you're going to be out. So, I mean, I'm learning now to actually listen to my body and start listening to that third eye, that voice you hear, your conscience. It's time to start getting in tune with some stuff. Because when you're young, you reckless. Like, DMX, DMX young, you driving crazy, doing all this crazy stuff. But then you got to slow it down and figure some stuff out, because sometimes your energy level could be at a premium when you get older, but you can find ways, like Michael Jordan, when he came back the second time. We came back the first time after his retirement. Came back, he had to adjust his game. He had some nuances, develop some more other skills, enhance some things. Well, one place he, had a deficit in, he made up for it in a different way. And that's just life. Like right now. So I think you should put nobody on a pedestal. Like if you are a sports athlete and if you are great at what you do on that field, in that arena, in that stadium, when they put you in your industry's Hall of Fame, that's all they should be concerned about. Don't worry about what you do off the court and off the field. If you're a wife beater, if you're a drug addict, if you're just a horrible person. But if you are great at something, give folks their props. And let's leave it at that. Stop following people. Stop saying this is a role model. Sometimes the best role models are the people that's doing wrong. And you see the consequences of their actions. You think about smoking crack, hang out with some crackheads. Maybe you might change your mind, maybe you won't. But I'm saying I don't have to experience everything bad to know that some shit is bad for you to do. Just look at the people around you. Just look at folks, because every decision has an outcome. And people talking about tragedy, I don't think it's tragedy. I think this motherfucker did something significant with his life. A lot of people ain't living, they just around, they exist, but they don't live. They live vicariously. You care about the Kardashians. I'm not the Kardashians or the housewives. What you doing with your life, man? Why do you have all this time to look at everybody else doing stuff and you ain't doing nothing? Just zoning out. I mean, this life thing ain't that long. Give a damn you live to be 50 or 105. This life thing ain't that long, and nothing is promised but death. There's an expiration date for everybody. We just don't know when the day gonna be. So what are you doing? Why be sad? Why be in an unhappy place? You don't have to do that. Why are you concerned about what people think about you when you can't control people's thoughts anyway? What do you think about yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you even like yourself? Are you honest with yourself? Do you put yourself first at all in anything, in any area of human activity? Because you try to please everybody, all you're going to do is end up failing every time. That's impossible. Especially folks that don't love themselves. So let me look and see what I got. Do I think JFK Jr. is alive? People fake their deaths all the time. You got to think about the JFK Jr. thing. Why would they go through all that time to try to find his body and then to dump it back in the ocean? I don't understand. They took all that time. They took the resources of the United States Navy and other government resources. They found the bodies supposedly, and then just to bury them at sea. Why not just leave them where they was at and just have a service? I don't. That thing you don't really know, because Dick Gregory talked about with JFK Sr. how he didn't die in Dallas that day. He was in a vegetative state like DMX, living on that island of Aristotle Onassis. So Dick was animate that JFK was alive for 10 more years, and then he passed away on that island. So, they did something interesting, because they said that JFK brain went missing, and I believe they found the brain, that Robert Kennedy had it buried in Arlington near Kennedy's final resting place, or that his coffin that they had him in when they transported him out to DC, to Maryland, they dumped it in the ocean. It's so much weird stuff with all this. It's like with the Bin Laden thing. They say that they killed him, but they didn't want to show an image of him dead, so they buried him at sea. You know, and then you remember the Pakistani Prime Minister, Bhutto. She said in an interview that Bin Laden died in the cave back in December 2001. Now, he was on dialysis. I think he had kidney failure or something like that. But I'm saying so much stuff that we're not sure of. He might be alive still, but I don't have no faith in no individual, man. I don't believe in no saviors right now. I know we programmed to think that somebody gonna save us. I mean, we catching hell right now. And really, we catching hell because we choose not to do for self. We choose not to save ourselves. I mean, save your individual self. And you could be an example and inspire other folks to save themselves. You can't save nobody. The only person you can really save is yourself. You got control over yourself. You got sovereignty over yourself. You are your own corporation, but he may be so much stuff. Like I said, murder is hard to prove. I believe that Franklin Roosevelt was murdered because you look at his inner circle, some of his people that were close to him died crazy. Like they were slow poison or something. And like I said, all I'm doing is throwing crumbs out there. I can't, I always point y'all, hey man, yeah, read this book or this stuff. Go out there and research, man. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised what you start thinking about. And it's like this rabbit hole, man. It's stuff right now that I'm thinking about right now as I talk about this. It's like the Al Green thing. We're gonna talk about Al Green. And that night he got them hot grits thrown on him. I heard so many different stories from the elders who was in the business, who worked with Al Green. You start reading the accounts online, the police reports, and the different news organizations. You don't know what to make of it. All I know is that Al Green became saved that night. He turned his life to Jesus. Jesus was calling for whatever reason. Okay, you said Rosemary was her name, Rosemary Kennedy. Okay. That was the daughter that was hidden from public because she got that failed lobotomy. They scrambled her brain. I'm just reading and trying to see. They were Rodney King. He had two other brothers in the car with him and got pulled over. And why was Rodney King out? Because he supposed to really not been out. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know what is going on with these things. Just like I'm talking about on Fly Nubian Queen TV. Shout out to Sister Jade Arundel, the Lioness Queen, Crown. Like all these weird black deaths surrounding like grocery stores and markets and gas stations. Like, I went to Ferguson, that incident with the cigarillos happened at a Quick Trip. Got a lot of Quick Trips out there in the St. Louis area in the Midwest. And I remember, driving in Ferguson, they were actually building a new Quick Trip right down the street from the one that got burned down during the riots. And I thought that was the actual Quick Trip that got burned because they were still in the process of building it. Oh, this is not the real. So this other Quick Trip was the one where they happened. Why did they know? Is it a coincidence they were building another Quick Trip just several blocks down the street from the one where the incident allegedly happened with Mike Brown and the worker over the cigarillos? So you don't know what to make of this stuff. Because I went to WashU in St. Louis. I never heard of Ferguson when I was going to WashU. No, I went to WashU for 4 years. I never heard of Ferguson until 2010 with Mike Brown. And that whole thing was weird. And it still is weird. And you got folks still caught up in the legal system from 2014. You know what I'm saying? If Black lives really matter, how come some of the activists still caught up in the system? Why hasn't Black Lives Matter? You create a legal defense fund or something to help these brothers and sisters caught up in the system who are trying to do the right thing for advocacy, for justice for Black people. See, we really don't have no organizations that speak on the behalf of Black peoples in the infrastructure. We don't. You know, we out here hemming and hawing and stuff, and you know, y'all always shooting yourselves in the foot. Look, y'all love Stacey Abrams. Well, you know, I guess Stacey Abrams helped drive away $150 million in business from Atlanta to Denver, Colorado, or whatever Colorado they're gonna have the All-Star game in, right? My thing is, our people are so emotional. We so needy for white approval that we are willing to eliminate ourselves. You can't blame you. Willing to get yourself off this planet just to be with them at all costs, and it's ridiculous. You know, and I'm not interested in trying to save all of us. All of us don't need to be saved. You know, another one bites the dust. You know what I'm saying? Because we all just lab rats and guinea pigs and collateral damage. And I'm more interested in working with people I can work with. I'm not interested in having headaches with black people. We out here, you know, choking each other out. It's like with DMX, you know, everybody his friend now. What was these guys at when he's out in his debt? You know what I'm saying? Everybody his friend. Everybody love D. They concerned about DMX, about Earl Simmons. He out of here because he didn't get enough love. He didn't feel that love like he was giving his soul. You know, he was giving himself, man. That's why his music was so powerful. He was just such a giver. Trying to fill a void. The greater the artist, the greater the insecurity. So, you know, but we don't care about that. We love to see the car wreck. I remember I was driving down the expressway and there was a real bad wreck as I was trying to merge into the expressway from the shoulder. The person in front of me was on the phone and looking at their wreck. They were so busy looking at the car wreck, they created another car wreck by running into the car in front of them because they was not paying attention. They so busy being hypnotized by the car wreck that they made another car wreck. And that's what people are doing right now. People are too distracted watching car wrecks and they making a mess of their own lives. But they talking about, oh, this guy, man. You know, people be tripping me out. Like, I hope he was saved. I said, what that mean? I hope he was saved. Y'all worry about some stuff y'all don't know nothing about. Y'all worry about the afterlife. Y'all can't live in this life. I mean, I'm not, you know, y'all worry about is heaven gonna be your home? I don't know if heaven gonna be home, but can you pay this phone bill? Can you pay this light bill? You got me covered for the first. Well, I have a place to stay. Y'all worry about stuff that, you know, it's not, you know, why? Why? It's like that Raekwon Wu-Tang song. Who do you believe in, heaven or hell? You don't believe in heaven because you're living in hell. You choose to live in hell. But then it tripped me out because people think, well, you know, black folks catch hell every day where I just live. Man, nigga, I don't be thinking about no damn white supremacy or KKK when I wake up in the morning. I'm thinking about how can I create a better world, you know, by the end of the day. What could be my contribution? I'm not worried about white people, if they're going to accept me, if they're going to like me. So my best days when I don't see no white people. I don't have to connect with no white people. I'd be like the white people that don't need to connect with you. Just be your own self, man. Stop worrying about stuff outside of your control and just create your own, man. This is your movie. Your life is your movie. Your life is your movie. So I think I said what I want to say tonight. I'm gonna get the hell out of here. But if you like the words from Brother Herb, please spread the word. We All Be TV, YouTube. You can support the movement. Like I said, this is the 15th year. April marks the 15th anniversary of the We All Be movement. It started as a blog. Then we moved to podcasting. And now we hear what we hear. We're not only documenting history, we're making history. We're making a contribution to the culture. You know, so I want to thank y'all for being patient and loving and kind. And so got a lot of interesting coming. Like I said, got a lot of shows planned. Let me read these comment section one more time. Oh yeah, you could be Butter Love, you good. I don't know if you missed anything, but I talk a lot. I'm trying to like no. Trying to cut my talking time down. But well, the Al Green, you said you hope he was. You know the woman that killed herself for Al Green? She was married with children. She had like 4 kids, I think. And she was originally from North Carolina. And she was very attractive. Because I mean, she was very voluptuous and curvy. And she was a red bone. But men went crazy over her. Because not only was Al Green into her, but like when a guy like James Brown Spider came to town, she had them hypnotized and mesmerized. Excuse me. But she was married with kids, and they said Al didn't know she was married with kids at the time. They used to send flowers to the home. So can you imagine being her man, her husband, and she getting flowers, these big bouquets of flowers from Al Green? You know, and we're gonna talk about that. I plan on doing a show on his birthday because I met Al Green. I went to his church. It was fascinating, man. It's like a Soul Brothers movie. He's about to go into love and happiness, and he said, "Oh, love and Jesus, hey." Man, is there so many stories that could be told? But it is fascinating, man. I know. Let me see. I told you that we won't stop. Yeah, I'm gonna give y'all the I won't, because y'all let me know, Brother Ron. We want to hear from you. I guess I can't feed the trolls no more. Thank you, Brother Love. Brother Love, California love. Yeah, I'm finding other ways to create. I'm a creator. I think y'all appreciate the support. All y'all that support and let me know that y'all want to hear more information about this type of stuff, because there's so many things to talk about. But I just want Black people, as we move forward, we need to start talking and being students of history. Like, you want to talk about the receipts and the claims for A.L.L and FBA. Start digging into their history to add to the claims. You know what I'm saying? Start coming with the receipts. And my thing is stop, trying to look for a figurehead or oracle to tell y'all how to think and feel and do. All I'm doing is this is very entertaining. Like, I'm just providing information from my perspective. But what I want to do, I want to encourage people to challenge my narrative, because that's how you create critical thinking. You heighten the contradictions, because they're not teaching us critical thinking no more. So what we got to do is, well, iron sharpen irons, right? Steel sharpen steel, whatever that saying is. This is what we are about here. Because there's a lot of people I would like to talk to and bring on. And everybody got their demons, man. People say, well, DMX had these demons. Everybody got demons. Everybody got dark side. And I think that people need to be more acquainted with their dark sides. What's interesting? You talking about COVID, people wearing masks and gloves, and people are nasty. Everybody got their form of nasty. My nasty, I'm comfortable with my nasty, but I may not be comfortable with your nasty. You understand? Everybody got their own nasty comfortableness, because we humans, right? We all got, I'm comfortable with my nasty, but I may not be comfortable with your nasty. But you think about serial killers, right? We talk about food safety, and I was thinking about this today. I said, I think John Wayne Gacy, I think he worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken at one point. This dude who was killing young boys and teenagers and stuff and young adults, had them buried underneath his house, among other places. This guy used to work at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Did he wash his hands after he killed people? Why he fix your chicken? Then I think Jeffrey Dahmer. Did Jeffrey Dahmer work at a chocolate factory in Milwaukee? I'm not sure, but I think I remember him working in a chocolate factory in Milwaukee. I think I met a woman who was a Black woman. They used to do happy hour at Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. I think her sister was telling me this. She lived in Milwaukee. Y'all didn't smell anything funny? The beer didn't taste funny? Nah, that's interesting. Because a lot of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims were Black gay men. And you think about Ed Buck, the big super Democratic donor who had his own thing going on in West Hollywood, killing all them Black gay guys. Why hasn't the LGBTQIA whatever called him out? Why hasn't the Democratic Party called him out? Ed Buck. But R. Kelly's in jail, in prison, for God knows how long. just violation of his human rights and civil liberties, and people think that's okay. Just because you assume you know what happened or what was related to R. Kelly. They couldn't even get him in court, but they got him on a damn, what's her name, Oprah's friend, Gayle King interview. You know, come on, man. It's like our people are such a mockery right now. Black folks are so disrespected because we disrespect ourselves on a daily basis with this farce. Bill Cosby has no reason to be in prison right now. Yeah, black folks think that's okay because Uncle Ray Ray or Pookie or Aunt Sylvia took advantage of you. You think that Bill Cosby was the person that took advantage of you when you was young. We do got a problem of sexual dysfunction in our community. And that comes out of slavery. Look at the movie Goodbye Uncle Tom, them sex farms. So, let me see. Yeah, it's best. Yeah, everybody is gross, and it's best sometimes is to know, hey, you know your food. If you prepare your food, you know what you've been doing. You know what I'm saying? So that's on you. So that's been one good thing about what's going on, but also exposing the miseducation system. Like people are now being more proactive in trying to educate their children. They're taking that more seriously now. People are finally seeing the inadequacies of the system when it comes to educating our system, because the system is not about educating our people. And really, knowledge itself comes from the home. That's why I said you gotta learn your roots, like I've been doing, learning my roots and stuff, dedicating my life to learning roots. He said chocolate. We're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, Chocolate Factory and Chocolate Man. Yeah, he had a thing for chocolate. Death by chocolate. He said Bill Gates. Bill Gates is weird. I got a Bill Gates story. Bill Gates came. He gave a lot of money to the I guess at the time was it Memphis City schools. Now it's Shelby County schools because the city is combined with the county now. These clowns, these black clowns, voted to give up power. Only black folks will vote to give up their own power in a system like that. Only black folks will vote to give up their own sovereignty. And these clowns all got jobs outside the school board. You know, they got promoted for selling out black people. Y'all talking about Tamika Mallory and the Cadillac thing. All she doing is getting a bag. These folks actually sold out generations of black students and black people. Who gives up power? But yeah, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates came to Memphis. They actually visited a school where I was substitute teaching. And what was crazy, the superintendent was Kreiner Cash. I think his name Kreiner Cash. He was from Miami. And what these fools did is that they had our school like it was a penitentiary on lockdown. Like they had a riot in the cafeteria and they locked us all down in the rooms. So they had a select number of a few chosen students, the special chosen students, along with Melinda and Bill Gates and the principal and the superintendent walking the halls. Like they was not interacting with the student body. And I know I can remember like it was yesterday. I looked out the window of the door when I saw Bill Gates and Melinda Gates and the superintendent and the principal. They were really short. I didn't know he was that short. And the students, even the class clowns, felt so hurt. They said, Mr. Ron, they ashamed of us? Why they lock us down like animals? You like what the class clowns were telling me. That's a good question, young man. That's a good question. This is weird because why not help them interact with the student body, do some type of motivational speak? You one of the wealthiest people, one of the wealthiest persons in the planet, you know what I'm saying? Very powerful. You and your wife are some of the wealthiest people on the planet. And yet y'all won't interact with these inner city kids. A lot of them are homeless. Like a lot of our kids don't even have homes to go to after school. That's why they hang around school. Maybe the only time they can eat lunch is at breakfast. I mean, eat anything for the day. It's doing breakfast and lunch. You know, when you start getting into the system, you realize, damn, how I'm gonna get mad at them for acting out in class or at school when they probably gotta be the grown up at home. Like they act like a kid at school, but at home they're the adult, they're the grown up. They're taking care of siblings. They might be holding down a job. I mean, one principal one time told me, assistant principal, I was in the hallway. He pointed to a girl. He said, "You see that young lady right there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "She a stripper." I said, "She a stripper?" Said, "Yeah, she be stripping, but she scored real high on the standardized test. But she's failing because she don't come to school enough because she's stripping and taking care of her siblings." So, it's interesting. He told me this story. Then next thing I know, he's fired or dismissed because he was having some type of improper relationship with a student. I don't know what's going, but he went out of his way and said, "Hey, you see that girl right there?" I said, "Yeah, okay." She strips and she support her family, but he said she scored real high on the standardized test. She got a high aptitude. She's very intelligent, but a lot of stories like very smart people and very compromised and horrible conditions. And you think about DMX, you can tell he was very intelligent. He went through the hell he went through and he made a contribution. So yeah, but Bill Gates, this stuff was weird. You had them students in the classroom like that, and it was so hurt. It was weird. So I don't really care for Bill Gates like that. And how can you be knowing about what's going on when you can't keep viruses off your damn Microsoft Windows? We're gonna trust you. You can't keep viruses off your own computer program. Let me see. Yeah, man, a lot of people got daddy issues. Bill Cosby was America's dad, so America's been very traumatized, for the most part, and a lot of us got daddy issues. And I think people weird, man, how they try to justify things, man. Bill Cosby didn't deserve that. Yeah, they're like the son Watson. Like, if he really did something to you, how come you didn't go to the police and file try to force a criminal investigation? You wouldn't try and get a civil lawsuit so you get some money. The Deshaun Watson things, I got to give brothers the benefit of the doubt, man. Innocent until proven guilty. You got to prove it. Now, we all know what go down in the massage parlors, like what even happened in Atlanta. A lot of sex trafficking stuff going on, a lot of happy endings. Sometimes they're not so happy endings, but happy endings. Remember Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, New England Patriots, he got caught in a sting at a massage parlor getting a happy ending after winning the Super Bowl or whatever. It's a game, man. It's only a scandal when it's heterosexual sex. Like, you look at Paul Pierce. If he had a bunch of male strippers in that room with him on that Instagram live, he would have got promoted at Disney. They would promote him. They wouldn't have fired him. Something about black male being heterosexual that scares the establishment. Like I said, and it's not disrespect to the ancestor James Baldwin, but if James Baldwin was a hetero black man saying the stuff he was saying, he would not have made it to his 60s. They would have took him out of here before he turned 40. It's something about black male masculinity that's a threat to a so-called system built on so-called white superiority. It really is not about white superiority. That's the religion. Racism is about power and resources and control of resources, not about hate. Now I don't teach in a traditional way. I'm teaching right now. I'm sharing what I know, my experiences and thoughts with you all. But you teach yourself, you got to teach yourself things. And when teaching, all that means, are you receptive to receiving? Teach yourself. Each one teach one. Yeah, what they did at Visit Hamilton, man, they were back in I won't say it was 2010. I think it was the fall of 2010, if I'm not mistaken, because I did a video about it back then. It's on my channel. It still should be. That's interesting, man. Yeah. What did they do? What did we do, man? Yeah. There's always exploitation by another name. I mean, these things, like I said, there's no institution you can name as far as the infrastructure goes that really supports and demands and advocates for black people, black agenda first. There's none. You got grassroots people, we got grassroots organizations, but they're on the outside looking in. They're not really in the inside playing the game at the highest levels. We don't have any advocates. Because really, you can't expect the system to liberate you when the same system is built to exploit you. You can't expect the same system to liberate you when that same system has been built on your exploitation and misery. Profit off your pain. So people got to help make really hard decisions, man. You got free will, regardless of what people say or how they make you feel or what make you perceive the situation. You have free will. Yes, it's the matrix, but you can't decide what you want to do within the matrix. And you can decide if you want to get out of the matrix. But the thing about it is, it's not going to be the most popular thing. Liberation is not popular. People are scared to be liberated. I mean, to be liberated means they have no type of social security whatsoever. To be truly liberated and free, you have no social security. You have no safety net. You have nothing to fall back on. You actually had black folks when the Civil War. That's why they didn't know they were free. A lot of black folks didn't want to be free. They wanted to stay enslaved because that's what they know. They feared the unknown. They didn't know. They like routine. People are creatures of habit. Everybody. We prisoners and creatures of habit. We are slaves to habit. We are slaves to habit. But I remember I went to the ancestor Chokwe Lumumba's funeral in Jackson, Tennessee back in 2014. I wish I would have recorded this. I went to his funeral. That funeral was so long. Man, that funeral was like 10 hours long. I was standing up all the time. I had on some brand new Stacey Adams, man. My feet was jacked. I was up there recording. I stayed on my feet for 10 plus hours. Man, that was a long funeral. But I remember after the funeral was in it, and it was about to start a repast, whatever, I had met a brother from the area. He told me that he was a runaway slave. He actually ran away from the plantation when he was 17 back in the early 50s. Like his family, all they knew was living on that plantation. So they really were slaves. Like they didn't know any other life. They never been outside the plantation. They couldn't leave the plantation. But he had older siblings. That's all they knew. And at 17, he knew that something wasn't right with that. He had the same type of spirit of like a Frederick Douglass or Sojourner Truth. This is like in the 20th century. I'm talking about in the early 50s. This dude ran away from slavery in Mississippi. And he would sometimes come to visit his mom and his siblings. He would sneak and visit them, but he ended up running away. And what he ended up doing, he started his own construction and carpentry business, became very successful, raised a family. His children became successful professionals. One went into nursing. Another one went into media production. I think they worked for NBC or somebody, either NBC or CBS or somewhere. So his children turned out pretty well, and he made a life for himself. And the only reason why his family ended up leaving the plantation was because I believe the owner of the plantation died, and he got kicked out the property. That's the only way. All they knew was their plantation. Like you talk about Fannie Lou Hamer, she didn't know she could vote until she was about 44 years old, something like that. And she lived on a plantation for most of her life. And once she tried to register to vote, she got kicked off the plantation. And Fannie only lived to be 59 years old. So, I mean, after she learned that she could vote, it was on. So I'm saying people put a lot of emphasis on young people. And we can't blame, like people are, well, the young people going to lead us. How they going to lead us if we don't give them the foundation of knowledge itself? We're just wasting generations when we let, well, the young people like, no, let's get some folks that had some life experiences. They are students of history. They are activist minded. They want to do things for the people. People put too much premium on youth. Youth is when you exploring, you don't know too much of anything, you willing to be, you're easily manipulated when you're young because you just don't know. You got a different world outlook. You're naive about a lot of things. That's why you get older, a lot of times you get cynical and bitter and stuff because you've been through some stuff, And I don't think it's always being cynical or bitter. I think it's just being aware and being more cautious because you are aware now. And also you see the limitations sometimes. Like, they say youth is wasted on young. They use young people to fight old man wars. You understand? It's always been like that since the beginning of time. it don't bother me no more. I mean, they got nothing better else doing. They some really like some losers. You think about it, they got nothing better else to do but to bother me. I don't even know them. I don't really care no more. I just love the fact that y'all out there receiving the information because I'm building troll immunity. Now, people want to be my moderators. We'll see. But I'm building troll immunity, excuse me, because eventually they're going to learn something. Something going to stick what I'm saying. It's going to stick to them. Because then when you know you got confidence. Because like I try to tell people, like people who get into I've been doing this for like this We All Be thing for 15 years this month. And I tell people, this is not for the timid. This is not for the weak. Only the strong survive, like the song says. You got to be strong, got to hold on, got to keep the faith, got to keep it moving. And I'm doing my God work. So, the ancestors are blessing me. They told me, Brother Ron, you tell our stories and you stay true, we'll take care of you. So they've been taking care of me. Y'all been taking care of me. So if I'm on here, I'm talking to you. So Brother Love and all the people who care about what I'm doing and y'all have benefited from my work, I'm doing this for y'all. I'm not doing it for the trolls. I don't care. Some of that stuff used to bother me, but I've been so used to, I don't think Black folks really understand that we the most bullied people in the system. Black folks have been the most bullied people in the system. I've been bullied by individuals and institutions to this day. And I'm still talking. I'm still walking. I'm still staying strong. I'm still trying to create a way for myself as well as for my people. So now I'm gonna stand on my ground. I'm standing my square. I don't think it don't bother me no more. I don't care. Because like you do this work, you're gonna have to be lonely. You got to stand alone sometimes because you're a pioneer. I'm pioneering something. Like I said, Daryl Green, people talking about there's what's a brother named Daryl Green, the one that got in prison for killing Michael Jordan daddy. He reached out to me back in 2016. Y'all, the Vlad TV, people talking about Vlad TV and this documentary, bro. I talked to that dude 5 years ago. He reached out to me, and I connected him with Baba Dick Gregory after 20 years of them trying to deny Baba Dick Gregory access to this brother. I got them connected. This is the type of work I do. So now I'm in the point, man, I need to talk more about this work I do. I actually did investigate unsolved hangings in Mississippi, put my life on the line for stuff, and I was naive. Like I said, youth is weird. I was doing stuff that, man, I look back, why the hell I did that? I didn't even realize how dangerous some of the stuff I was doing. But I'm still alive to tell the tale. I'm in my 40s now, so it's a blessing. So as I look back, it's like, well, this work, God has found a way to still keep me preserved. So I got work to do. And so I'm going to do the work. So I thank you all for being patient, who rock with me for a long, long time, who's been consistent. Don't really care about the trolls no more. I think it's kind of weird, man. It's strange. It's strange. I mean, my bloodline says I'm from greatness, man. Like I told people, like there's a lot of people in my bloodline. Like I said, if I had known, I would relate to Marvin Gaye and Curtis Mayfield and Sister Rosetta Tharpe and Big Miller and all these other people. My grandfather, I learned that story. My father didn't never tell me about his father. I had to learn it on my own. So I come from greatness, and my people serve the people. We give the best we got to our people. We love being Black. We love serving our people. I stand on some strong, powerful ancestors. I refuse for these trolls to rob me of my glory. And they won't win. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. But anyway, thank y'all. I'm about to close it down. That's 3 hours. Jesus Christ. Oh, man, I'm talking loud. I guess I'm going to get a complaint about the neighbors. Yeah, I agree. There's more to come, y'all. Like I'm saying, I'm gonna bring y'all the Al Green stuff. Yeah, man. DMX died because he loved the people, man. It was like revolutionary suicide. He gave so much to the people, man, because like I said, he ain't supposed to live that long. You think about like, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get out of here. Like Miles Davis. Miles Davis lived to be 65 years old. Really, he shouldn't have lived that long because of all the shit he did, drugs and all the crazy shit. But it's not about quantity, it's about quality. The reason why DMX will be immortal because he gave his soul to what he was doing. He showed you that vulnerability was a strength. being like what I'm doing right now, put myself out there, not hiding behind an avatar. Letting these folks, these trolls and stuff, this joke on me and try to, make me feel bad about myself. They up here, clouding up. Y'all seen the contradiction. Like I'm just the ugliest person in the world. Like my nose is black and proud. I got big lips. I got big nose. So what? I'm black and I'm proud. See, Michael Jackson was beautiful, but he let them folks get in his mind because he went to a place where they thought ain't no way in hell a nigga could get to the top of the mountain. You got to think about, they made Elvis the king of rock and roll. Michael Jackson made himself. But yeah, he had to pay the price because you got to deal with these devils and how they look at you like they think you ugly and something wrong with you when you are the father of I'm the father of the trolls. We created this. Black folks, original people on the planet. We indigenous to the whole damn planet. It's not just in Americas. We indigenous everywhere. We made this stuff. So no, ain't gonna tell me, make me feel ashamed or be black or be me. Man, people crazy. Shit. People crazy, man. They could be NSA, they could be CIA, they could be, y'all think they could be bots. I don't know what they are. Thank you, Sister Monique 2C. You're a very beautiful woman. You be busy. I see you all in the black media, man. You are consistent. I don't know if you go to sleep or not. But yeah, I want to thank y'all once again. We love you madly. Support the movement, Cash App, $R2C2H2, Google Pay, PayPal, and Zelle, R2C2H2 @gmail.com. You can Vimo your support at R2C2H2. You can buy Art of His Art, R2C2H2.com. You can wear Art of His Art. It's Burt Williams, Mr. Nobody. This is the guy who was the blueprint for Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, W.C. Fields, for everybody. Without Burt Williams, there'll be no Eddie Murphy. Burt Williams was the Eddie. He was the first comedic superstar and one of the first recording stars of the 20th century. Phenomenal. He was like very famous black actor on the Ziegfeld Follies and went through a lot of racist bullshit. But like W.C. Fields said, Burt Williams was the funniest man he ever saw, but the saddest man he ever knew. The man was so great that when he died, Langston Hughes skipped his important exam at Columbia University to go to his funeral back in 1922. So we'll talk about Burt Williams one day and show you some of my artwork dealing with Burt Williams. But thank y'all for being patient. And we love you madly. And y'all keep on producing and pushing. Thank you, Sister Aluna. Thank you. Like I said, if I need a moderator, you definitely on the list. Brother Shaq from Texas. You got to do a show, man. I like your stuff. I saw you on Brother King Bernard's platform a couple times. I know you've been rocking with us for a minute, so we appreciate it. Good night. Y'all take it easy. I will. I appreciate it. This is what keep me going. Y'all good people, not the trolls, but the real people, man. We love y'all madly. Thank you, Sister Butter Love with the Cali love. I love Cali, man. I've been out there with the L.A., but y'all got a unique brand of racism. I'm glad Judge Joe Brown been talking about it. Y'all racism is like some elitist, like it's on a different level out there. I love it. But y'all got some beautiful women out there, man. Thank y'all. Y'all take it easy. Godspeed. Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll come back if you let me. If I could meet at the Fat Burger. I don't know if you eat Fat Burger. I like Fat Burger better than In-N-Out. Or maybe a Tommy Burger. We can go get. Y'all great. Let me get out of here. Thank y'all for listening, man. Thank you, G. We love you madly too. I appreciate y'all. I don't mean to keep y'all this long. I feel like I'm doing a versus, but I'm not. I'm not. I appreciate it. I'll put this for posterity, whatever I want. I appreciate it. Yeah, great. Yeah. Just man, it's like LA is like a foodie heaven, man. Yeah, bro. I mean, peace, brother John. Appreciate SC love out here. I mean, bro, I appreciate you listening. I know you've been long. You've been rocking with me for a long, long time, man. But I don't know, man. It's like you gotta. It's just so much stuff going on. We'll see. Thank you. I don't want to keep y'all all night. I just like. Well, we talk about Hubert Davis, and that's another talk. We'll talk about that, man. Jesus. Not right now though. But thank y'all so much. We love you, man. Y'all have a great weekend. I might come back on here sometime this weekend. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourself so you can be kind and forgiving towards others. See how it works? Somewhere. Love y'all.